Barrel Surf Podcast.
Barrel Surf Podcast.
Barreled Surf Podcast.
Barreled Surf Podcast.
Barreled Surf Podcast.
Barreled Surf Podcast.
Barrel Surf Podcast.
Yeehaw!
It is recording and we are live. Mate, we're in the shed quarters. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Barrel Surf Podcast. My name's Adzy, hanging out in my shed on a Sunday afternoon, coming in a summer, and I have a special guest with me this afternoon. Pretty frothing to have this lad in. Been trying to tee it up for a little bit. He's a pretty big human, and he loves to get on a lid and get out in the water and have a swim, but what he's probably most well known for is, he might dispute this, but he's one of the best water photographers in the world at this point in time in the realm of surfing. He's captured some amazing images. He shoots video, and he loves doing it from the water as well as the land, but I think it's water is his specialty. Welcome to the shed quarters, Mr. Tom Jennings.
G'day.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good.
Thanks for coming in.
No worries.
That's the way. Yeah, mate. So you've been shooting video and doing water photography in the realm of surfing for a pretty long time now. You're
I've never done photography, but
oh yeah,
so not really that great a photographer.
yeah. In terms of stills,
Yeah,
yeah,
but I guess that's a nitpick to pick the difference between them. But
Yeah.
I guess they're a very different kind of art in the same umbrella.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
The videos are that good these days. You can take stills from almost.
yeah, you can take a still, but most people would be able to tell it's a still and not a photo. There's just difference in resolutions and shutter speeds and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah,
But
cool.
I'm not really fussed, I guess, with the still side of things, but I think it's a unique art form that's completely separate to footage.
Yep.
And it should be celebrated for what it is rather than just being like, I guess, left in the back room as video cameras and media goes online and all that stuff improves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all Instagram and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Probably leans towards video clips these days, don't they? A bit more, but and with the print fading away, it's probably got less of a place. But like you say, it should be celebrated because, man, it's still nice to pick up a good mag or a book or something and see a printed image, isn't it? And just sort of stare at it for 5 minutes or
Yeah, as long as they don't swim in front of me, they should be celebrated.
so. Sweet, I love it.
It's great, but yeah, I guess social media in general, but Instagram celebrates mediocrity. No, wait, is that the right word?
It is.
Just absolute mediocre averageness.
Yep, just pump it
You
out.
see that many people with the most plumb average content with like 100,000 followers or like doing branded comments, and I look at that stuff and I'm like, oh my goodness, yuck. Like, I could be making $3 a week doing that.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know, as seeing that stuff, it's just like, oh my God, is this where society is going, where we teach our kids? And, you know, I was always told quality over quantity, and now it's like just societal backflip of just pump out whatever garbage you can, and maybe something will eventually catch and you'll be able to, I don't know, blah.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. You can become Jake Paul, can't you? Something squeezer like that.
Yeah, I mean, I barely know who that guy is, but I do know who that guy is.
That's the problem. I'm the same. I don't follow him and I know him, but he got there through just pumping out garbage on social media, I guess. I don't know how he got there.
He's a YouTube, like a gamer guy or something, right?
Something like that. I don't know.
Anyway, I do a lot of YouTube, and I keep my my eyes open and just kind of like go, you know what? Some of the things you find online are actually incredibly useful, educational, or good. You've just got to have a mind to know what is garbage, and what is gold.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing altogether. Like, social media can be fantastic, but it's just
it's awesome
the way
if you
that
lose your dog, I find.
Oh yeah, it's awesome for community, as long as community has enough intelligence in it to separate the gold from the garbage. And you know, there's just so much stuff where people just see things and don't even question it or don't even like think twice. They go, oh my God, it's a really low low pixel graphic thing. It must be true. Repost, sometimes it is true, but it's like if you're going there to find, to educate yourself, it's kind of like, oh God, there's, not saying there's worse places, but there's better places to go.
Yeah,
Might take a little bit more effort, but most people just are not interested in effort these days.
Yeah.
When it comes to all that stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, mate, we sort of ripped straight in there, but let's dial it back.
Yeah.
Where'd you sprout from, Tommy? Where'd you grow up, and how'd you find the ocean?
I sprouted from my mum.
Yep. That's a good thing.
And my dad in Perth. And how did I find the ocean? I found the ocean, I guess, because my parents forced me.
Did they?
I originally didn't like it at all. I just found it too much. The textures, the sensations, the noises, everything. I remember being down at Yallingup, screaming my head off because Mum was trying to get me to open my eyes underwater, and I just couldn't do it. But yeah, it was like one of those things where like they just put me around the ocean for long enough, and one day it clicked.
Right.
I think it was first with like snorkeling or whatever.
Yeah.
But like at some point, surfing came into it, and I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, it's really hard for you to kind of like pinpoint the moment where you went from being like not to where you became enthralled.
Yeah. No.
But, I remember around the mid-teens was when I was like, oh, well, what's surfing all about? Like, everything else that I'd been obsessed with on and off throughout my life just kind of disappeared.
Yep.
And it wasn't so much surfing or bodyboarding, it was just the ocean and I guess the sculptures and just how amazing it can be out there when everything lines up.
Yeah, cool.
And I think when you're 14, unless you're a rare phenomenon, it's kind of, you're just completely kooky in every way.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what's going on, but you're just mesmerized by these like shapes the ocean throws at you.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess, I spent, lived in Perth until I was 2018, I guess.
Yep.
And, but, a lot of people down here thought I lived down here because I was just down here so much.
Yeah, we're down here a lot.
Staying at my parents' property and just, but, throughout my childhood, me and my parents, my family, my sister, we come down here on average 2 or 3 weeks, I guess, for the weekend.
Yep.
And Dad was just constantly doing up our shed down here, and we were just, thrown into nature.
Yeah, cool. And, sorry, mate, it's got to flick the power on over here.
Oh, no, what's happened?
Oh, no, it's just running off batteries. It's still running, but
gotcha.
it's all cool. Mate, did your parents surf? Is that why they were pushing you into the ocean, or?
My parents have always had an affinity for any sort of, like, random subsport.
Oh, yeah.
They've been competitive underwater hockey players. Mum's doing underwater rugby at the moment.
Underwater rugby?
And they met, I think...
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's just... I don't think it's rugby, the ball would float, but it's basically played with a weighted puck or something. I don't really know how it is, but Mum loves that stuff. My whole family got into underwater hockey, and, my parents met at the dive club or something at uni back in the day. Like, Mum was saying they've been living together for 49 years as of like yesterday now.
Oh, really?
So that's
cool.
That's
well
cool.
done.
That's
Yeah.
pretty rad. Yeah, stoked.
Yeah.
Bit of stability in my life.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, they both surfed as such, but I think my dad would shortboarded for a bit or whatever the surfing was back then, but they were both drawn towards wave ski riding.
Oh, cool.
Out at Yal's main break or Margie's main break, or they're always telling me about when they used to go surfing out at Northies with Dennis Lilly, because he used to be
He was a hellgoat boater, wasn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dad broke his back out at Margie's main break.
Did he?
Just compression fracture.
Wow.
I don't know, like he loves telling those kind of stories that I've kind of got like a bit overly saturated with him, but I think a pretty big windy day, like bit of an air got under him, he dropped, landed on top of him, got crushed. I mean, you think about it, you're strapped into a huge piece of incredibly buoyant, whatever, like it's going to thrash you if you get smoked.
Oh, for sure.
And, Mum's got a photo of her wave skiing with I think her first Goldie in like the late 80s or early 90s. You know, they're both incredibly enthusiastic water people. You know, Dad's obsessed with fishing, and they just go diving up north every year and just love it.
Yeah, cool.
Every day they'll walk down to the beach in Perth and they just love it. Dad's the gnarliest crayfree diver I know.
Oh, really?
Just always keeping my fridge stocked with crayfish.
Sick.
Just
Awesome.
loves it, and he's just, you know. So yeah, that's the water connection for my family.
Yeah, well, it paints a picture pretty early then as to how you became a water photographer. But
Yeah.
definitely some good swimming lineage there.
Yeah.
Mate, your build is, you could have been a good swimmer. I'm tipping maybe you're a good swimmer. I mean, what, you're like 6'4" or something? Pretty lanky?
I find repetitive actions mind-numbingly boring.
Yes.
I can't do anything that's like a repetitive routine.
Yep.
So I think why I love surfing, because it's so unrepetitive.
Yep.
Every year you kind of start afresh. Like you might be scoring the same waves you scored the year before, but everything's slightly different, and it's always exciting. You have like 4 months off, the ocean comes back alive, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we can go and do it all again. It's like, yes, but every year the lighting's different, or the direction's slightly different. You're always comparing, this year we had 4-6 sessions out the box. Last year there was only 2. The year before there was 5. And you're like, always comparing notes, and that keeps it fresh, so it's not repetitive.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I can't stand the whole like swimming laps or running or doing anything that's just like the same thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I don't know, also my body just falls to pieces as soon as I put too much pressure on it and all that. So like I can swim for 6 hours or something in a wetsuit or in board shorts with my camera.
Yeah.
But I can barely paddle my surfboard for more than like a minute before my shoulder breaks down in pain.
Really?
It's just a weird, like, I don't know, my body's so
Just meant to swim.
it's just clunkily put together, and I guess I just bite through the pain when I go swimming with my camera because it's what I love.
Yeah.
But everything else is just like, nah, I'm not gonna grind myself down for that.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, cool. Mate, what happened to all the goat boaters? The 80s was such a glorious time for the wave skis, weren't they? Like, I reckon if you came down to Yales in the 80s, there would have been like half a dozen out all the time, but you just don't see them at all anymore, do you?
I think that's just to do with the culture of surfing and the selfishness of it, or the internal dynamics of it and stuff. I guess like during the 80s, I guess there was an explosion of, we can ride waves in so many different ways. And then throughout the 90s, it was kind of like almost like, like a crusade almost. Like the surfers are like, the wave skis are doing this. They're getting in our way. They're big and cumbersome and they're dangerous. And the same with the bodyboarders, although they're not big and dangerous, but like they're getting in our way. They're taking waves off us because they're accessing waves differently. Like a wave ski could paddle in from way out. Yeah. Same with the longboarders. Like, longboarders were kind of called out of the water in a lot of ways because they could paddle way better. And the bodyboarders got pushed out of the water because they could just sit under all the surfers and not even need to paddle at all. Yeah. And I think it, just one of those things where there was more shortboarders, I guess, than the other ones. So there was enough power in the shift to like just push everyone out. Yeah, yeah. And I guess like if there's no professional push behind it, there's no real drive for a lot of crew to like keep pushing what's possible or what, improving a sport. Yeah. So you end up with like, I guess something gets popular. You end up with more and more kooks getting in it. And then they're, the really talented riders are never an issue. They know exactly what to do and how to get around it. But it's the ones that probably like me surfing, like that are not fully clued in. Like they get in the way. They're the ones that get in the way that have to ditch their board, which hits someone in the head. Or Mum was telling me a story when she was young, goat boating, and a surfer slashing her under the armpit with his board or whatever, and and the stroke going under the armpit and stuff heavy. Out at Yale's main break. And I don't know, that stuff probably happened. Things like that probably happened every day, where there was just like, I don't know. I feel like surfers go into the water a lot to get away from a lot of things. And if they're angry, they bring their aggression with them. And if they don't have a good surf, the aggression bubbles out. It's like trying to get away from how angry I am, and now I'm even angrier. And that it's one of those, I guess, cultures where it's easy to blame the thing that stands out.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. I'm not an encyclopedia on surfing, that's for sure.
No, but it's an interesting opinion, that's for sure.
Oh, I've always been a very passionate bodyboarder and surfer, and I've always just really struggled with the concept of surfers versus bodyboarders. I understand the reasonings behind why surfers would get pissed off at bodyboarders and why bodyboarders would get pissed off at surfers. But I think, thankfully, our society is, our culture in surfing has, greatly moved past that.
Yeah, it's changed.
And I think that's great. There's a lot less salt T-shirts going around Mars. I've got a lot of mates that are bodyboarders and a lot of mates that are surfers. And when I started shooting, you would have never seen them in the same room having a chat. And now they just couldn't give a shit. They're all just like, fucking none of us can surf. We're all working.
That's right.
It's so, it's good.
Yeah. No, that is
For
good.
sure.
Mates, so around your mid-teens, you said you found the ocean. What was it first? Did you start stuffing around with an old Kodak disposable, or were you jumping on a bodyboard, or were you on a wave ski? When was the first?
Never a wave ski. God, no. I have to think about that really, because I've thought about that stuff a lot, but I think I got into surfing. I grew up walking distance from Trig Point.
Yep.
So, it was always easy to go to the beach. And there's a couple of guys I knew around there and surf with them a bit. And, just depending, I was always so shit at getting to my feet. So I gravitated towards the bodyboard, particularly, watching Chris White's Tension series and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, these people are gods.
Yeah.
It's a bit sad how the industry has changed in bodyboarding and how there's just like, all those guys are still gods, but there's like very few people coming to replace them.
Yeah.
And the media things all changed, but you can't really touch Tension in terms of how iconic it was.
Oh, it was pretty
for that period
major.
of time.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I loved watching the surf films growing up. Give your series a plug. That was one of them.
Hey, there we go.
But like Montage was a huge one for me, and I was kind of like, I like surfing, I like bodyboarding, I love surfing, I love bodyboarding. Why is everyone like picking one or the other? Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to go surfing when it was really fat and fun and all that, but then I would like to try bodyboarding when it was a bit sucky or rippy or, get a little barrel kind of thing. And I think, I know the moment clearly, kind of when I decided, holy shit, I was like, I'm terrible at both. Slightly less terrible at bodyboarding because it's very easy to entry level into bodyboarding.
Yep.
But I remember just being so scared of, down at Smith's Reef. I was on my birthday weekend with some schoolmates at the time, and late September, and Smith's Reef was pumping, and I was like, it was maybe one of my first real experiences of pumping surf.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am going nowhere near these barrels, but I remember paddling over them, looking at them, going, "Hey, that looks like the footage that's in Montage or in Tension or like one of those."
Yeah.
I don't even think I'd found Tension at that point. Who knows?
Yeah.
At that point, but like, I was like, oh my God, I wish I had a camera. That would have been cool. That would have been a shot.
Yeah. Right.
Would have looked like they want to dingle.
Yeah.
And I think my parents were well off, but never one to like splurge on just like, oh, you want a video camera? Yeah, we'll go buy you one. But I had friends that had video cameras and developed friendships with them. And I think that's, I was making films with my friends by early high school. I think at least year 9.
Yep. Oh, that's pretty early.
So like the transition happened, in a couple of years where I went from being no idea to, getting told off by the kid told off by the teacher at school because I was taking the piss out of her question because she asked the class, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? And everyone was like completely blank. Oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I want to be a fireman. All that. And I was like, I want to make surf films.
Yeah,
and everyone
nice.
just laughed at me, teased me. The teacher punished me.
Really?
And it's funny when I bump into a couple of kids from school back then, getting after years of being relentlessly bullied by every single person you could poke a stick at.
Really?
For many, many reasons. They go, geez, Jenno, like, who would have thought, eh? And I'm like, well, I thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember that clearly, sitting in the class and getting like, punished by the teacher
Wow.
for telling them I have a dream and I have a dream that I want to pursue.
That's awesome.
Not a fucking clue how to get
it's
there,
awesome
but
it's awesome that you were so clear about it.
yeah, well, I mean, that's one of my traits, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
I pick something that I want to do and I'm kind of like, well, I kind of actually want to do it. I don't just think about wanting to do it.
Yeah.
But when you're that young, you don't really know it all, really.
Yeah. Mates, summer's upon us. You might not want to put a full wetty on. If you just want to get a quick one in boardies and a rashie, look no further than the Shark Eyes Aquaphobic Rashie. Mate, it is groundbreaking technology. Keeps you warm for that little quick 30-minute lunchtime surf. Unreal. Keeps the sun off. Keeps you a bit warm, but not too warm. Little summer splashing. Little summer loving. Shark Eyes wetsuits. Get around them. You.
Hey, Adzy, I tell you what, mate. I have been absolutely loving the new releases from Forester Estate. The wines are incredible, buddy.
Mate, they've had a good vintage. They just won a bunch of medals for their new Lifestyle Shiraz at the Adelaide show. Hasn't even hit the shelves yet. When it does, get onto it because it's bloody great buying. It won a whole bunch of gold medals.
Yeah, Forester. Oh, Cheeky Monkey, what's this new beer that you have just released? If I'm not mistaken, it's a Wildcats Hazy Double IPA. Absolute juice with thick citrus. Another absolute belter from Cheeky Monkey. You legend.
Want me to get you another cheeky monkey there, mate?
Absolutely.
All right. What was your first camera?
First camera. There was a Canon Ixus and a Olympus something that had, back then the video quality was so it was like 640 resolution at 15 frames a second or something. Yeah. Those things was that a 0, that one?
This one's a 0, that one's a 3.5.
Oh, I love the 3.5s. Zeros are pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I just cut that bit out.
No, that's right. Or you can have a stiff one, whatever you want.
No, I'll have this and then maybe have a 0.
Yeah, cool, man.
Slowly dial things down.
Yeah. Or slip in a cheeky one. Depends how far we go. But
yeah. So where were we?
Mate, first camera. Was it a little one of those, like, did it have a water housing or was it a little splash-proof sort of thing? Or
so this is long before GoPros and every other shit POV camera there is.
Yeah.
I think I actually got given one of the original GoPros, and it was like a disposable underwater film camera with a wrist mount.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know if I ever used it or it was stayed in the package. We might have thrown it out because I swear I never used it, but we could never find it because that probably would almost be a collector's item for how shit it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was one of the first cameras my parents got for me, and that was before they realized that I was actually into filming and not photos.
Oh, yeah.
So they were trying to support me. They were just doing it in a way because, they had, although they were in love with the ocean and the surfing and all that, they had not the slightest clue about the surf industry as far as I could tell. So they were just like, oh, he's likes photos, whatever,
Yeah, he likes cameras in the water.
Yeah, so anyway, that, but it was, I think the first one was this Canon Ixus, and it was like, yeah, they because they were mass-produced cameras, and Dad found these mass-produced housings for them, and yeah, I'd play around, could take photos with them, but you could shoot video. Hang on, I gotta sneeze.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hay fever's a bitch. Still at this time of year, it's still going.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it was like you could take photos with them, but you could also shoot video, and they were terrible quality, but just putting in a housing and taking it, filming fish underwater, and then seeing what a wave looked like underwater on footage, and like, little barrels and stuff down at Booger Box in Perth, or like, it was really like, we can make surf films now with water footage in it.
Yeah.
Because, my friend had his, little DV camera or whatever, a little
Yeah,
hi-hat camera, DV camera, and we're
Yeah.
playing around with that stuff. But it's like now we can have water footage.
Yeah, cool.
And I remember at the time there was a rival from my friend's school that was making one, and they had like a plastic bag housing or something for their DV camera, and I was like, motherfucker. Like always getting the one-upped by someone. And it's like, there's no real difference these days, getting a better camera or all that kind of stuff. But
The old plastic bag housing. What a ripper.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it was that whole thing. And, when you're young, there's so many people giving it a crack.
Yep.
And, eventually they drop off because they find their other place in life, or they have to get a job, or they have to do this, or all these other things. So, yeah, it's like, for me, those early years they're like, I don't know what I'd do if I had them again, whether I want to do the exact same thing, or I'd just be like, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to be a homeless person. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? It's you could flick a switch and go either way, really.
Yep. Cool.
Life is that dynamic. But, yeah, it's I always think, I'm like, wow, I guess it worked out.
Yeah, it definitely worked out, man. Far out. You've brought joy to many surfers and continue to do so.
That's the thing. Like, I get so baffled when people blow up at me, or like get pissed off at me about filming, secret waves, or like, sensitive locations. And I'm like, dude, what do you think I'm trying to do here? I'm like, I'm just trying to fulfill my dream of filming amazing surfing, like it's a nature documentary.
Yep.
And just trying to bring some joy to people. And like, I'm trying to score good waves.
Yeah.
And just bring joy. I'm not trying to like geolocate a secret spot. Like I'd rather do anything else than that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think people just can't think outside of their like little kind of, I don't know, it's not selfish. I understand the concept. Like, I respect the fact that you want to protect something because humanity is so good at just not being able to control itself. As soon as there's a little good thing, everyone needs to ruin it. Like, look at it. We live in the best part of the world, and it's just slowly, not even slowly, turning into the,
it's just getting blown
like
up.
Summer Bay, Byron Bay, whatever you want to call it. Like, people coming in, trying to bring Perth here, and you're like, fuck off. Like, can we just use our brains and keep things a bit, like, chill?
Yeah.
And so, like, I get it. I understand when people, get like that. But yeah, I love bringing joy to people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great when people watch my footage and they're like, we can tell it's your footage straight away because it's just like, it's something different.
Yeah.
It's
sick.
and I'm just like, cheers.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Oh, that satisfaction's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
When someone comes up and says, oh man, I just watched that edit that you did. Fuck, that was so sick. It's just, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what sort of financial gains you're getting from being a surf filmmaker, but I would suggest that getting that praise from surfers has got to be one of the most rewarding parts of it.
Swings and roundabouts for sure.
Yep. But it's a fine line with the whole secret spots, quiet spots. I mean, you understand on one point you're like, well, I'm not geotagging it. I'm not putting landscapes in or whatever. You're doing your best to keep it.
I think, honestly, I think that's the most torturous thing when you go to like a secret spot or whatever, that you can't just film all how like beautiful nature is around it, like the landscapes, because, it's sensitive. Like there's places I've gone and waves that I film where I've gone, oh my God, I so wish I could put a sequence in of how beautiful that backdrop is, or that foreground is, or like a wide shot of the bay or whatever. And you're just like, oh man, you wish you could do it, but it's like, I'd rather go to the place and be able to film it, like just be in the barrel, nothing else, and leave and be able to come back and do it again later than to go there, blow it out, and then just be creating enemies. It's so stupid doing that.
Or come back and there's 5 other photographers in front of your shot.
Oh, not even just anywhere. Like there's places out there where I'm just like, I feel like I'm lucky that I've got to go there and be there, and I feel privileged. And then I'll see other people that I'm like, why is that person there? How is that person there? Like, that person doesn't really, I mean, it's selfish in a way, but that person doesn't have the right to be there because, and it's a silly way of looking at it, because everyone has the right to access the ocean. But the only way that person is there in the middle of absolutely nowhere is because someone's told someone who's told someone that, oh yeah, there's a sick wave there. And then they're gone, sick, we'll go tap it on the weekend. It's like, well, hang on. there's a culture around that wave. That wave is protected by its locals. And just because there's no one there on that day doesn't mean you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so many people that grow up, particularly in the cities, but like, unless they have a good wrap around the back of the head by someone older in the community to teach them how sacred those spots are, they're just clueless, and they'll just go somewhere and they'll blow it out on Instagram or something, and all it takes is one careless lineup shot, or like even like a post on the same day for someone to go, oh, it was pumping that day. Sweet, I know the chart now. Bang.
Yeah, that's it. You look
people
up the
are
swell,
intelligent.
direction,
They can, you know, people are stupid and they can do that, and people are intelligent and they can figure things out from very little.
Yeah.
You know, all it takes is one rock in the background and be like, oh my God, they're shooting from that angle. That means the rock has to be out there. I found it. Bang.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and
you never post on the same day. That's a rule,
no,
surely.
I mean, every now and again I'll do it, but I usually don't take my camera out of the housing for a week, you know, so, but it just depends on this, you know, I wouldn't go to a secret a beachy with a misto bank, or I wouldn't go somewhere that's sensitive and do that. But like if probably wouldn't even do it with rabbits, because you kind of want to keep that under wraps for a few days before it gets, someone else is going to blow it out. Yeah, there's places, you know, but if like North Point was good and every man and his dog was there and you got a sick shot, you'd be like, nah, fuck it, I'm going to celebrate with everyone else.
Yeah. The thing is, at North Point, it won't be good the next day anyway. So.
Yeah, a little bit of instant gratification every now and again. You know, there's a bit of nuance.
You're only
there.
human, Jenno. You're only human, mate.
Bit of nuance, but in general, it's just like, mate, you got to ask yourself, what are you taking shots for? What are you shooting for? Why are you here? And what are you doing? Like, if you're just having fun, then don't post at all.
Yep.
You know, like no one needs to know that you scored.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I post stuff rarely, every now and again, a bit of gratification, but usually my stuff doesn't come out for 6 months plus, because I'm not shooting for, you know, for likes or people going, no, sick shot, bruv. I'm like, I'm shooting because I want to make media that people can, you know, sit back at the end of the day or whatever and just be like, wow, that's
sink into.
I've always had this ethos of like, you go watch a nature documentary, you know, David Attenborough, or, you know, Nat Geo or whatever, and you kind of get transported away from your world. You're in the same planet, but living in Perth or in a city or a town or anything is so far away from a rainforest or a desert or a wild habitat where animals are just going everywhere. So I always incorporate as much natural history into my surf films whenever I can, whether that's a bird or a dolphin or anything. Like, you know, I filmed a couple of sharks. They're straight in there. Dolphins, you know, there's a couple of shots I'd want to get that I haven't been able to film. But whenever possible, I incorporate as much of the world around surfing, because to me, it's like surfing is the most natural thing. It's the most incredible natural force that we as humans can experience in this world.
Yeah.
Very similar to snow, I guess, in the way that it's, you know, it's water doing insanely incredible stuff and we can ride it.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think of that. And
yeah, it's like you say, it's not just the waves as well.
No.
It's the fact that you're driving through a forest to get there, or driving down a hot sandy beach, or out in a desert somewhere in some like eroded limestone cliffs. It's all that natural beauty around
it's
it.
like when
we get to soak up as well, don't we?
Yeah, it's like we go up to the Des every winter, and it's just like, you know, the sun, the sand, incredible, everything. And it's so beautiful. And then, like, particularly in recent years, you've just seen, like, all these Perth people, you know, that couldn't go to Bali for their weekend blowout rock up. And they're just coming in there turbo and creating new car parks by, like, parking on the vegetation and stuff. And they're just like, whoa, we got to get out there. We, like, vlog all this. Like, let's post it on YouTube. Let's go to the secret spots that anyone with half a brain knows you don't go near, or you at least don't film or show. And, like, let's go do this. Let's go do that. And you're just like, the fuck, mate? Why are you bringing Perth with you? We're in the Des, mate. Crack 6 beers and knock yourself out. Don't just get your phone out. Put that thing away. What the hell are you doing? It rattles me. You know, like Moni's, for instance, you know, when I started going up there, you know, when you guys were filming, you'd never see anyone there other than the most hardcore surfers, most of them natural footers, and a few photographers.
Yeah.
No one would go near it with a, you know, you go up there on any half decent day now, 10 cars parked up, people having barbecues on the cliff, you know, all that kind of shit. And you're just like, I've seen the most hopeless kooks going out there.
Really? Such a
Maybe we need
dangerous wave.
maybe we need to sharpen the reef up to teach them a lesson,
Ooh,
because like
pretty
that's
nasty
the
out
most
there, right?
terrifying place to get in, particularly going
Yeah.
out, like,
Yeah.
But like, I couldn't imagine being like a surfer that could barely get to their feet on a decent wave on a 4-footer, paddling out a razor sharp dry closeout.
Yeah.
And like, what are you doing? That's such an common occurrence these days because there's so many surfers and so many of them haven't been checked. There's no lineup checking anymore. There's no like, you paddle out box and Dino looks at you, goes, nah, mate. Shano does it every now and again where he'll check someone and tell them what's up.
Which Shane?
Sorry?
Which Shane?
Shano, like bodyboarder Shano.
Oh, yeah, GDS Shano.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Tractory, yeah.
Oh, iconic call lord. And like, some people get pissed off by like his antics. And I'm like, no, we need that shit.
Yeah.
Like, we need people in every one of the lineups over here just going, nah.
Yeah.
Not today, buddy. Like, nah.
Ain't that swell? Guys were banging on about it recently. They've done it a couple of times how like jiu-jitsu's got belts and stuff. And they're like, man, you can't just roll into a dojo and start rolling around with a black belt, there's grades, and he's sort of saying it's pretty fair point, but pretty hard to regulate, obviously.
On average, I'll snap on one person per session at box if there's like if there's a team on it. Like, I don't want to say anything. I just hope people use it. And Toomey's like up at Nalu, like it's so bad for it. Like that wave is so lined up and there's no need for anyone to be sitting where they sit. And every good day, there's usually 3 or 4 old boys or random dudes that are just like, I just feel like holding up a big pink neon sign going, go down a third bubble, you fucking muppet. What are you doing here? You do realize you can't catch away from there and they're under 6 foot.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
No.
What are you doing? Get out of there.
Yeah.
I yelled at one hopeless dude up there this year and I was like, it's so annoying. Like, I want to go out there and enjoy myself. And I know it's selfish. I'm just shooting. I'm not even trying to catch a wave. So I'm never a threat to anyone that wants to catch surf. I'm just saying, look, just, paddle out at waves that are at your ability.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit tricky at Toomey's because it's like Byron Bay. It's like a left point that's fun as when it's 2 foot.
Yeah.
3 foot, it's like the most rippable wave you've ever seen. But like, people sit out there when it's 6 to 8 foot and try and catch 3-footers, and I'm just like, oh my God, just why?
Yeah.
Go down a third bubble. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess you are an observer of the highest order, so I guess you're watching everything, can't you? That's going on out there.
I have observed a lot. I think it's always something that's interesting that when, a surfer goes out, let's say it's box, let's say it's North Point, they'll go out, have a 4-hour session, let's say, and catch 6 waves.
Yep.
I'm swimming in the water. I technically catch every single wave that comes through. The amount of barrels I'm in, and that's how I count it,
Yeah.
It's a different perspective, but it's still like on a box session, I might get 60 barrels in a session.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're a surfer and you got 60 barrels per session, you'd be losing the plot.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is. Like, for me and a bunch of the other guys that I shoot with regularly, like, we sit in the channel at box and we're looking into wave after wave of perfect surf, and that's our endorphin rush. That's how we feel our stoke.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible thing. We're cheering and we're hooting because we saw a sick wave or someone ride a sick wave.
Yeah.
And that's, the rush I get from that is the exact same as if I get a 2-foot barrel at Mufflers.
Yeah, sick.
Or I don't fall off on my surfboard. Because usually I'm falling off my surfboard and just going, why am I even bothering?
Yeah, yeah. Mate, talking about being in the tube or looking into the tube, what came first? Can you remember? Where was your first tube that you can remember, or was it more like you got? Can you remember more clearly taking a photo of a good tube first?
So I don't know, but one thing sprang to mind is like this, like the first time I ever paddled out in the boog to North Point, when it was like a proper day, because Dad would usually just drive me down there each time we were down, and most of the time it'd be rubbish. And one day we just rocked up and it was just pumping.
Yeah, right.
Like, first I was like, oh my God, it must be Saturday or Sunday, who knows? But it was just like one of those days where it was absolutely hooking. And I went out with my camera and filmed, and Dad was trying to boog on the end bowl.
Yeah,
I
sick.
think he got smoked. It's my turn. He grabbed the camera and tried to film me.
Oh, really?
And
Epic.
anyone that swims out at Northies when it's big knows it's almost impossible to sit right on the end because the current just whips around the corner.
It does.
I remember him filming like a couple, me doing a couple of rolls, but I remember getting this one barrel that I'm sure it was pretty small. I've always exaggerated the size of my barrels because not exaggerated, but I always feel like they're way bigger than they actually are.
Yeah.
But I remember it would have been 5 seconds of just locked into this twisting, bending end bowl.
Sick.
And I think I put my back out because it was just like bending, and I just was such a hopeless bodyboarder. But I made the thing, and Dad was too far out to film it.
Oh, no.
And I was devastated. But I remember just going, I was in a barrel that just kept on going, and I've been chasing that particular feeling
Really?
ever since. And every now and again, I'll get a tube where I was like, wow. But most of the time, I'm just avoiding the tube because I'm too scared of hurting myself, I've broken my back out at rabbits. I've split my head open at mufflers.
Yeah,
and
right.
I've just, in general, just tweaked myself more times than I can count because I'm so fragile. I don't know. I feel like for such a big unit, I'm just so brittle.
Yeah.
No
okay.
matter what I do, I just always remain brittle. Everyone
Right.
tells me all the time, oh, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. I'm like, mate, I know who I am. I know what my body's like. Trust me.
Yeah.
You know?
Fair enough.
And so, like, yeah, I think that sprang to mind as that's the moment I've always been chasing when I've been on the boog.
Yeah.
On the stick, I just want to ride a wave successfully, not bog rail and not nosedive.
Yeah. 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 That's
That's
fair
it.
enough.
But
Yeah. Cool. Oh, that's pretty good memory.
I think I've made maybe like 2 barrels on a stand up.
Yeah.
Just because I'm so tall and I've got
it's
such a
hard, man.
thorax on me that I just don't bend into barrels very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've pulled into a couple and I've got swatted. Like when I lived up in Kalbarri for a bit, I surfed Jakes a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I got almost decent, like competent, I would say. Not compared to any of the boys that surf up there, but
Yeah.
like I'd paddle out when it was 3 to 4 foot and, go a couple of waves. Like it's a pretty intimidating setup.
It's such a gnarly wave.
But like for a bit there, I was almost kind of surfing some pretty decent waves.
Yeah.
Couple of little like pocket rides and a few slappings. But
Sick.
like, I could technically surf it.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that for years. And I think I'd just be like, nah, I'm not keen anymore.
Yep. Yep.
I think I'm too old and too sore and all those guys are way too good and hungry.
Yeah. Are you a goofy footer?
God, no.
No. God, no. Who do you like shooting better, goofy or natural? I know it's a silly question. It shouldn't matter, but I just thought I'd ask it for fun.
I'm not prejudiced.
Yep. Good. Mates, what about early adventures? It sounds like your oldies were pretty keen on coming down here, so they were sort of your first road trips and surf
Yeah.
adventures, were they? Did they take you anywhere else? Or?
Yeah, my parents never took me on an international holiday. I think they didn't. They never even took me to Roto.
Right.
I think they made jokes about the first time I ever went to Roto. Oh, see, you've gone overseas now. You don't need to go anywhere else. Yeah. But yeah, they never took us anywhere outside Australia, which I think is kind of sick.
Yeah.
I always road trips. I never went on a plane until I was way older.
Yeah,
like,
right. They didn't like international travel?
oh,
Dunno.
just don't really know. I mean, they definitely do. They
Yeah,
spend
okay.
my inheritance all the time. It's great. I love paying for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they I think they just really grounded in what's good. Like in Australia, we've got pretty much everything. Like,
Yeah.
you could go almost anywhere in Australia and find any sort of terrain or climate or situation. We have the most beautiful, diverse country that you can poke a stick at, really.
Yep.
And so it's, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Jump in a car and drive. Like I've never been afraid of a long drive.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And Mum and Dad used to always take us up the coast, down the coast, around Australia, and it was like such a fundamental love for this country and like the outback and just nature and just just getting involved in it. Like for someone like me who's so sensitive with like insect bites and shit, like I'm always like covering myself head to toe and like lubing myself up with all sorts of repellents just to like stay sane, but I just love the outdoors.
Yeah.
As long as it's not too hot. If it's
Yeah.
over 25 degrees, I'm done.
25.
So
Hey, it's warmed
put
up a
me in
bit
Indo
today.
and I'm actually melting in a puddle.
Oh, well, I'm glad we did a 5 p.m. Session in here because I walked in here at about 3 and it was like 32 in here. And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, but I had the
Jeez.
fan going and it's cooled off
But-
a bit now. So
Yeah. But Mum and Dad gave me and my sister this incredible upbringing where, they took us to so many rad places. And I always remember, like, I think it was in year 7, and Mum and Dad, we just went up north on a trip. Like, we'd done around Australia, we'd done all these other trips to here and there. And we went up north and we did this 3-week trip up to Exmouth, down on Mount Augustus, and like just a loop around there. And we went to somewhere along the Ningaloo coast and we pulled up to this place, set up the camper trailer, and we jumped in the water, and it was like seagrasses and kind of like, oh, this isn't that great. Like, what's all the postcards about kind of thing.
yeah.
And then like the next day or later that day, we went for a little drive, like 30 minutes down the coast. And we pulled up at the beach and we're like, oh, this is looking a bit different. And, I'm a tiny little kid. I don't know shit. But my parents were like, oh, let's go for a snorkel. We jumped in the water, and coral gardens everywhere. And that was one of the most pivotal moments in our family history in terms of we couldn't believe it. My parents couldn't believe what they'd just discovered. They had their dive, tripped out, bolted back to the camper, packed up. And back then, what would it have been, like 25 years ago now?
Yeah.
We just pulled up and put the camper there, and that started it's sad. This next year is the first year my parents are not going to be able to stay on that beach because how crowded it's been getting, and the rules and all the red tape and you can't stay here on the high tide now because of this and that, and you can't stay anywhere for more than a certified number of days because you got to give everyone else a fair go. Like back then, you just rocked up.
Yeah.
And there was plenty of room because it was like,
Just not as many people.
my sister's flown up whenever she can and takes her kids there to hang out with her grandparents, and it's become an institution for our family.
Yep.
And now my parents are like, we can't do it anymore. We were up at 3 a.m. waiting to book our things, and it was already done.
Oh,
like,
man.
it was all
It's
gone.
So gnarly, that booking system.
Oh, it's so gnarly. But like everything you have to go through to get there. And like, my parents went through a phase where they'd do 2 months straight on that beach.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Our dogs have had their entire lives go by, starting from puppies up to, 15 years of dog from puppy to death every year,
Yeah.
between 2 weeks and 2 months and they just sit on the sand, just rolling and just loving it. And it's like our family has so many incredible memories attached to that beach.
Yep.
Really fun surf, like out the back.
Yeah.
If you have the keenness and stuff,
Yep.
you never see other surfer up there,
Yeah.
and it's fickle. It's blown out, a lot of the time, and it's,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not exactly, ruler edge,
It's
but
not
there's
Indo, yeah.
surf and it's beautiful and there's coral gardens and there's fish everywhere. But it has if anyone tries to tell us, nature isn't changing, the world isn't changing in 30 years, 25 years, that little stretch of beach has gone through an immense amount of change.
Yeah.
Not just from the pressure of humans rocking up and just, blasting the zone, but, the way that the shoreline has shifted and the currents have shifted and everything's just, it's beautiful in a way to see that the world is dynamic, but it's so obvious that things are shifting.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but that's the childhood I had with my parents not going to Bali. Not going somewhere else for a nice fancy holiday in a hotel kind of thing. My parents were like, all right, we're on the beach. Here's the campfire. There's the dirt.
Fantastic.
Get to know it.
Yeah.
Go fishing, get salty.
Yeah.
And, that stuff was all pretty confronting for me because I'm a very sensorily, overstimulated person,
Yep.
But I think that was good because, I am a sensitive person to a lot of bullshit. But as a kid, I was kind of just rubbed in it and said, mate, that's the only option you got.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it wasn't great, but all the memories that I have are just of my parents just giving it a real solid crack of the whip.
Yep.
They worked their asses off to do their jobs and all that kind of stuff. And we were the benefactors.
Sick.
And it's, surfing was an offshoot of that eventually. I came to that at a later age, but my parents just threw us out in the world, threw us out in nature. It was a weird, we were protected from so many things, but we weren't protected from the real world, like the real world, not the real human world.
Yep. You've mentioned a few times sensory overload and being sensitive and stuff. Is that due to you have Asperger's? Is that right? Just quickly, what's Asperger's?
Well, that terminology is being cancelled these days, but I think that's a load of shit. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's a terminology. It's part of the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
It's just like, you picture a camera that's underexposed or overexposed, or you picture the sound on your microphone always a bit high or a bit low, or you can't separate background noise from,
foreground.
You find it, I can't tell a lot of people's faces. There's a lot of little things you can't.
It's a good way to explain it. That camera being overexposed or underexposed. Yeah. It's just that not. And mate, no one's lenses are exactly the same anyway, right?
No.
So
like you have, I have an incredible ability to focus on certain things, and then some mornings I just can't get out of bed. I can't think. Like I can't do anything. Like, it's it just is what it is. I don't think, I think I'm lucky in certain ways and unlucky in other ways. But yeah, I mean, I drive around everywhere in my car because I've got a bed in it at all times. So if I do clip out, which hasn't happened in a long time because I feel safe.
Yeah.
But I go everywhere in my car. It's jam-packed of things that help me feel like I've got this no matter what kind of thing. If I go somewhere without all that shit, I'll get pretty titchy.
Yeah, okay.
And the older you get, the more used to you get it. And it's not like I'm severely autistic or non-verbal or anything like that.
That's
like
right.
I'm pretty sorted.
Yep.
Like, I'm not crying poor or anything in that respect. I'm but it makes a number of things frustrating. But you wouldn't, it's the same thing with all like invisible disabilities. Like, they're invisible.
Yeah.
The only time you're going to notice them is if you get shoved up against a brick wall,
Yeah. Yeah.
You get backed into a corner, things are going to get a bit weird. You think about a circuit board, every circuit board's got like power regulators to make sure everything runs, doesn't, short circuit, doesn't, overload. They got fans to cool things down. They've got all this kind of stuff. What happens if the fans stop working, everything overheats and blows up? What happens if, there's too much power? What happens if there's not enough power? All that kind of shit. That's just what like an autistic brain is like. But there's every single brain is wired so differently that you can't put a finger on it. You can't be like, oh, that person and that person are the same.
Yeah, that's right.
Fuck no. You look at Clay Marzo compared to me, and I found out I was autistic because of Clay's film, and then getting to meet him, I was like,
did you?
Cool. I watched his film and I was like, oh wow, that guy's autistic. Cool. Nothing like me. And then when I met him and got to hang out with him, I was like, well, he's kind of not really like he is in the movie. He's actually like this and that. And I was like, I feel like there's something going on there. And this is years ago now. But like, for lack of a better phrase, I did my own research. And but I didn't just stop it there. I didn't just go, oh, I done my own research. I'm autistic. I was like, right, I got to get to the bottom of this because I have a hunch. Yeah. Something's not right or something is right. I don't know.
Something's just a little different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, you find out certain things, you learn certain things. And I think the only thing that my diagnosis gave me was a peace of mind that was always meant to be me. Yeah. I wasn't doing anything wrong as such. It was just, that's me. But I don't hold anything against the rest of the world that thinks this or that. Like, I'm just like, I'm a weird person. I'm different. But it's okay to be weird and different. Just don't expect to be treated normal. Yeah. That's the thing. I think there's a lot of people out there.
Way, though, man.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are weird or different or whatever, and they want to be treated like they're special or they're normal. It's like, nah, just go with it.
Yeah.
If you're not normal, you're not normal. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like,
mate, normal's fucking a relative term anyway.
Like, there's always going to be dickheads out there that are going to find a way to make themselves feel better by roasting you, but you just got to be resilient enough to be like, so?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Dickhead. You don't need to put phobes or ists on people. You just dickhead. It's a dickhead.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's a dumbass. That person is not smart enough to be, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Water off a duck's back. Easier said than done, of course. There's a lot of people that struggle out there because they just can't move past that. And I've struggled for years with that. But I think you get to a place where you're just like, no, you're just a dick.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. If anyone's having a hard time that's listening to this podcast, just got to be like, nope, dickhead.
Yeah, that's it. There's plenty of them out there, that's for sure. Mate,
don't quote me, but
I think we just did. Mate, so in that whole progression in the formative years as filming and that, when did you sort of start to take it a bit more serious and say get a decent camera with like a proper housing or get some clips that you thought, hold on a sec, this is like as good as other people are getting on? Maybe was there any sort of moment there of filming anyone in particular? Or
absolutely. There's countless moments if I can try and nutshell it. But I got lucky to, I guess, come into contact with Rick Raffici.
Oh, yeah.
Who at the time, I don't know which came first, but he was my second cousin's uncle.
Right.
Or I just managed to meet him at Trig Point. I'm not sure. I think my second cousin, Kurt, helped me kind of like reach out to him and get in contact with him.
Yep.
But he kind of, I guess, saw me as like, okay, he gave me a bunch of rusty tapes that had raw footage on it and said, go edit something. And I went and edited it. And that was my job interview.
Oh, cool.
And, it was like an apprentice. It was like, you do as much work as you can and hopefully it's good enough and, very, very little pay, but I'm all good with that.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, you got to learn. You got to learn the tools of the trade. You've got to pay your dues, and surf industry is a bit different to every other industry in that respect.
Yeah.
But I did all that stuff, and I think I showed him that I at least had a fundamental understanding of surf media and how it differs from everything else. And he invited me to come on a couple of trips. I think in 2008. I might have done something in 2007 because I finished school in 2016. I actually 2006.
Oh, I was going to say,
I know. Yeah, I'm a bit old now. I did miraculously finish year 12. My parents did cotton on to me and support me and let me do things a bit differently, but I made it out of year 12. And then I think the next year I did a trip with Rick up north. It was with like Ian Walsh, and I met Crakey and Kirby and so many of the boys on that trip, and that was really like a turning point. But then Crakey's movie started the next year, and I filmed with him for almost the next 4 years, I'd say. That movie we finished, I think 2009, mid 2009.
Which one was that?
There's No Eye in Go Rye.
Oh, yeah.
And, Rick had kind of been like, well, mate, you're forbidden from shooting water, even though I was passionate about it and I showed promise.
Yeah.
He kind of was like, you're forbidden from that. You're the land guy. You've got to learn, you got to pay your dues. You got to learn the ropes.
Yep.
He always said, something like,
Because obviously, for those that don't know, but Rick Raffici is a fantastic water photographer and has been for a long time.
He's a master cinematographer in the water and all that kind of stuff. And I mean,
So he stuck you on the land and said,
well, it's just something that so many people need to learn today. Like, mate, you should be doing a couple of years on the beach before you even look at a housing.
Yep.
They go straight to drones, straight to GoPros, and you're like, mate, get yourself a solid fundamental camera, sit yourself on the beach for a couple of years, work it out, figure out, and then you migrate if you're still interested.
Yeah.
And a lot of, it's this kind of thing. So like Rick kind of put me there and said, if you want to go anywhere near the water, if you want to do this and this, you got to master this shit first, and you got to deal with it. You might want to go out in the water, but the job is the job, and you've got to. And that was a fundamental lesson that I was. He was really good at, showing the ropes in that respect. And so, I didn't really start doing the whole like water stuff for any surfing. Because I always shot bodyboarding as well.
Yep.
And I had my own shitty little housing and this and that. That housing got destroyed when Kirby tried to pull into a barrel and sandwiched it between his head and the reef.
Oh, did he?
Blew it to pieces.
No way. Smashed your housing with his head.
Yeah, head butted it into the reef.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
How
but
did
you know,
Kirby fare up on that one?
oh, you know what Kirby's like.
Yeah, he loves it.
I'm sure a bit of it's caught up with him now, but he's a bit of a maniac.
Yeah. No
But
way.
I kind of think that's like an honor and a rite of passage that my housing got decimated by
yeah.
Kirby in the
Oh,
reef. It's
mate,
like, that's
that's a-
sick.
oh, that's
Who
a-
else's housing's got
Yeah.
demoed by Kirby?
I know. That's
It's an
awesome.
iconic.
It is.
Anyway.
It's fantastic.
But you know, I had those couple of years there, and I really learnt the fundamentals, and it made me really appreciate what I wanted. I wasn't there to be like, you know, get the glory shot or to do like be cool or anything like that. I just wanted to film surfing, and like I got given this opportunity to go and film with some of the world's best surfers, and you know, like I grew up idolizing Kirby and Rye. You know,
Yeah.
Rye's Quicksilver films like Young Guns and shit.
Yeah,
I was
for
like,
sure.
I remember I just could not believe that I was standing in the same room or like eating a pie at the same servo as Crakey and Kirby and those guys. And I was
So glamorous.
so scared, but so like excited. Like, oh my God. It's like, I always said this is like Harry Potter getting on the Hogwarts Express. Like
Right.
he went from one life
Yeah.
and jumped in a car, and the rest of his world opened up. He was,
Wow.
you know, on the Hogwarts Express. You know, my
Yep.
parents were fabulous, but they did keep me sheltered from what lay outside the family and all that.
Yep.
You know, the
Yep.
things that I learnt on that first trip. Half of that shit I still haven't spoken to Mum about. You know, but that's fine. You know,
Classic.
you know, you got to get thrown in the deep end every now and again, and most
Yeah.
people will do it. You know, at a party or a club.
Yep.
I'm not most people.
Yeah.
But you know, the stuff I learnt through that process, mostly good, some bad, but you know, you can't learn every lesson in life if it's just good experiences. You
Yeah.
have to learn from bad shit.
Oh, for sure. You learn
you
more
know.
from bad shit.
Well, yeah,
probably.
because if you want it, you're going to go back for more. If you know, if you just gave up after the first bad experience, no one will get anywhere. And I think there's a big lesson there, because a lot of people just go, "Oh, that was a bad one. Oh, I'm done."
Yeah, yeah.
And that's cool, because it's not their place. If they don't want to push through the pain or like, you know, put their head down, then it's not for them.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, no participation awards, that's for sure.
Sick.
But
Yeah, right. So, and then when did Rick go, all right, mate, you're allowed to swim now? Or did you start doing it by yourself?
I had my own housing. Sorry. I had my own housing, and then I borrowed a housing. I remember one time Crakey and Rick went to Bali for it was the Padang Cup,
Oh, yeah.
and I was living in Kalbarri at the time, and Rick's was this Canon XHA one, I think, and there was two of them, and he took one of them and I had the other one, and there was a housing for it. And yep.
Excellent.
And I was hanging out with Kirby and Kit,
Yep.
and the waves are firing, and I was like, I got the house. You know, I didn't have any responsibility to nail like the land angle for
Yep.
Rye or for Rick, and I didn't sneak. I was like, it's completely logical. Like, I know what I'm doing. I got the camera, put it in the housing, and I swam out at Jake's, and it was, you know, they were towing it, and it was like this, and I was so stoked, and Kirby and Kit was stoked and everything. And then Rick and Rye found out, and Rick got all like heavy on me, because he was like, I guess he just didn't trust me in the water, you know. And I guess, you know, I don't know, but I had this like, that was maybe the first time I shot, or not the first, I don't know, maybe one of the first times that I swam in big barrels
Yep.
with really accomplished surfers, because I was never swimming with Crakey.
Yeah.
I was always on the land while Rick would swim out with his film camera, or, you know, just, you know, land gibbon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, it was sick. But, you know, I think by the time the Canon 7D came out, this was like maybe, I don't know, like, I remember the intersection me and Crakey did, and there was a couple of shots when I first got my 7D in the housing, and so I still use that lens that I got back then. That's my go-to lens in my housing today. It's the sickest lens. It's still perfect.
Cool.
And, you know, but I remember there's a couple of link-ups I got with Crakey, and that was the first time I was like, oh, I just shot some legit good-looking shit. And the 7D is not a 16mm camera. It's, you know, it's crap, particularly by today's standards, but had enough of that feel where I was like, oh, He had a bit of depth of field. It had a bit of slow-mo, and I was like, oh, I got it. That's it, bang. That's my look. That's
Cool.
what I'm looking for. And every camera I've got since has been an improvement on that, whether that's resolution or frame rate or whatever. Same lens. The lens has always stayed the same.
Oh, yeah.
But the camera has changed and got better and better over the years.
Yep.
And now I've got, in my eyes, I've pretty much got the ultimate setup that I just don't think could get better, really.
Break it down to us, the ultimate setup.
Good lens, good camera, good person.
What about the housing?
Oh, it's Dave Kelly housing, yeah.
And that guy's been doing it forever, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, he just sits in his back shed in Newcastle and just pumps out really sick, authentic, handmade housings.
Yeah, it's cool.
No bullshit. Sick.
Yeah.
I've flown over a few times to go and see a few friends. Ando and stuff live in Newcastle. They're just down the road from where Dave works. And I've gone around to Dave's to talk about housings, and I can't stand up in his shed. I feel like Gandalf in a hobbit hole.
Really?
It's fucked up. He's just sits there and he's tinkering away, making everything from scratch. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, he's a genius on the tools.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everyone's using his housings, aren't they? In Australia, at least, for sure.
Yeah, it's weird, but because he makes custom housings very specific to individual setups where other companies will make a housing and then they're like, well, you need this, this, and this. And, if you've got a red camera, you're going to have to use this screen, this cable, this battery to fit in this housing. And I've never liked that because my take on filming is individual and the way I like my housing balanced and, is very different. I swim around with a battery pack to take the weight and the heat out of my camera.
Oh, do you?
So it can be annoying at times, but most of the time it's so much better. But you couldn't do that unless you got a custom rig.
Yeah, right. So where do you have your battery pack?
Just on a cray belt around my...
Do you?
One of my dad's old cray belts, took all the weights off, had the buckle on it and just put it around my waist.
That's classic.
It's pretty classic, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you sort of cut your teeth up in the Barry a fair bit.
Yeah. I do feel sad that I haven't been able to go up there much, in the last, number of years. But Kalbarri, it's always the same, but it's always it's also changed. There's not really Craigie was really driving the whole pro surfing and filming and stuff. And then most of the surfers up there couldn't give a shit about footage and filming, and they just see it as so it's very hard for me to rock up there and be like, hey boys, I'm just going to blow your zone out, even though I don't do that. Yeah. But a lot of them kind of think that I do or look at it like I do. Yeah, that's never my intention. That's the last thing I'd want to do. But, I've gone there a few times on the way back or whatever from Nalu, and I've got, a bunch of good friends up there and stuff. But, there's no real professional surfing drive there. When I started shooting there was Kirby, Courtney and Craigie, and then a bunch of other crew, and there was a real hub of swell hunting going on up there. So there was always something to shoot, and Craigie was, I think Craigie and I started doing our vlog, and it was maybe 2 or 3 vlogs that had started up on Vimeo or websites and stuff. It was long before social media and Instagram. Yeah. Long before Instagram and long before YouTube became a full thing and stuff. And we did these cool vlogs, and then he wanted to do his TV show and all that kind of stuff. But it was there was always something to shoot up and around Kalbarri. And so there was a real, but that's not there anymore. Craigie just does his, adventure vlogs, doing his cockling and all that kind of stuff. And it's really cool. Go do what you do. But there's not much of a reason, I'd still like to go up there with a few select surfers to go and shoot, it's got to be, based on respect and it's just like people coming from Perth down here and bringing Perth with them. You don't bring anything with you to Kalbarri. You come to Kalbarri to be in Kalbarri. Yep. You're not bringing anything from outside, because as soon as you, drive over that hill and come into town, you're cut off. Yeah. It's almost like you might as well throw your phone in the bin. Yeah, for sure. Because you're in a different world. Yeah. So
yeah, cool, man. And what about the first time you went overseas then? Was it for work or pleasure, or how did it go down?
This year was the first time I think I've actually gone on an overseas holiday with my partner. I was like, I've never gone to Indo before for like for a holiday or like just to not take my camera stuff and all that kind of shit. It's always been like swell chasing or boat trip or this and that. And it's kind of strange. Like I feel weird traveling without my equipment, but I also hate traveling with my equipment because it just brings me so much unwanted heat. The amount of times my equipment gets probed for batteries or because it's just a couple of cameras that look big and expensive and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, God damn it, just let me go. Just want to get to my hotel or get to the waves or, but the first trip I did international was for a tracks trip where I made a cover mount DVD for tracks.
Oh yeah.
With Jay Grant back in the day, and it was called Latitude Zero.
Oh yeah.
What did we call it? Did we call it Latitude Zero? Or we were talking... No, we were... I think it was staying at the land camp in the Talos, Latitude Zero.
Yep.
I'm not sure what we called it. We might have called the film that as well.
I feel like that rings a bell for me.
It was a fairly average film. We didn't get much waves, but it was like my first trip to Indo, my first international trip. I think it was anyway. And, I was just mesmerized by a lot of things. I was still dealing with a lot of chronic anxiety back then. So, it's very hard to enjoy things when you're anxious as fuck. But it was a very, I'd done a few trips around, to East Coast and stuff in Australia. But yeah, it was pretty crazy to go see something different and to film stuff. And like, I think any filmer that does a trip out to the Mentawis or any of those islands or, any of those zones in Indo, it's a real reality check for like, it's hardcore. Years later, once I'd done a number of trips and drawn the line in the sand, I said, like, any job I get on, any trip I do to Indo, it's purely like my call. I don't go to land. I don't do the land filming stuff.
Right.
I'm on the boat. I'm in the water, unless of course I choose to. But like every time I go do a boat trip now or go to Indo, it's like, okay, I'm just letting you know you're hiring me, but I don't do this.
Yeah. Okay.
If you don't want to hire me, that's fine. I just don't go. I don't go to land. Yeah. Because it's for me. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Too hot and all the bugs and stuff like you're saying.
Mate, clips me out. Like the last couple of boat trips I've done, we've had a couple of like parties on a beach and this and that, and I just absolutely lather myself up in insect repellent, and that's the only way I can relax.
Yeah.
And then I'll get blind with the boys.
Yeah.
but like I'm not going on a boat trip.
Yeah.
And just sitting on the beach at Macca's for 8 hours a day now. I just don't do that. I said, I've done that. Yeah. Every filmer that does a boat trip or goes over there needs to do that as a rite of passage. Like if you're going your first boat trip, if you're a filmer or a photographer and it's your first trip and you just stay on the boat or you just swim, nah.
That's the cream, you reckon?
Nah, you got to do your rite of passage for sure. I did years of trips over there, getting whipped and sent to the beach and basically being stranded. Like the boys would be like surfing for 4 hours. Yeah. And then they'd go back to the boat for a snack. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, and they'd be like, no, you stay in. You stay until we're done. You're in there all day. Take snacks. You're just in there all day. Yeah, and like the thing that I hate the most on one of those trips, and it gets frustrating even for swimming or for shooting off the boat, is when you're on a trip and there's 6 surfers or more and one of them's a bit hungover, so they don't go surf early.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you got 2 or 3 guys that are out there from dawn. Yeah. And you're like, all right, it's almost time for breakfast. Yeah. One of them paddles in. 2 new guys that weren't surfing go out there. And then, it's just this like constant drip feed of all the surfers from breakfast till sunset. It's good if you have a team manager on the trip because they can kind of set in and be like, they can step in and be like, hey, guys, got to give the filmers a break. Let the guys come in from land and like recharge. We got to cut this off for, unless it's absolutely firing, but it can be so frustrating when the surfers kind of just get like that. Well, I'm just going surfing. You can film if you want, but it's like, well, mate, my job's here to film. Like what, what if you end up getting a really good wave?
And then you'll be angry that you didn't get the shot.
Yeah, it's like, and I've been on those trips where I'm just like, hang on, just wait, just chill. Like, let's just wait for old mate that's been surfing for 5 hours to come in.
Yeah.
Have half an hour even. You don't need to go surfing just yet. It's not like the wind's offshore. You just, Yeah. And so that's a really frustrating one for sure. But I think it's a rite of passage that any young filmer or any filmer needs to cop. Because
And then you get to the point where, you can start to direct traffic a bit. Like you say, you got the confidence in your ability and your decisions and just go, man, come on, let's make this work for everyone. Yeah,
exactly.
You're not doing that on your first couple of trips. No way.
No.
Yeah.
I remember the first boat trip I did, and I had like 5 DV tapes or something, and Jay and Craig were like, "Oh, mate, you need more than that. You're going to be like on the beach all day, every day." And I was like, surely not, kind of thing. And I remember there was one day where we scored Pumping Greenbush, and I was on the boat filming boat angle. I was like, wow, this is the most amazing shit ever. And then the next day, I was like, it was just like things can change so quick. The next day, I was just on the beach all day filming them doing cutbacks at, 2 to 3 foot Roxy's. And I was just like, fuck, yesterday was sick. Today sucks. It was just so boring and just lame. I was like, the water's glassy. It's like 45 degrees.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And it's just like the funnest waves ever.
Yeah.
And I'm just on the beach melting by myself in a rock pool or like a dried out rock pool while these boys are doing hungover cutbacks. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, but that's what you got to be,
Yeah.
You see on social media or whatever, they're all just like the highlights and everything looks amazing. And you got those crappy pop songs with the shitty little drone shots with the color grades and everything looks so polished and fun on a little phone.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fucking nothing, Get back to me when you've sat on the beach for 8 hours and you've just been evaporated.
Yeah.
But, that's that.
That's the job.
It is.
Yeah,
Sometimes
cool.
it is.
No, that's a good insight. I like it.
Mm.
I like it. Mates, so...
You got a lot of notes there.
Yeah, got a few questions there.
Fire them.
All right. Mate, let's talk about... Well, could go anywhere there. I was enjoying those early years, and let's stay on that just for a bit, those early boat trips. Was there something really memorable on one of those early boat trips early in your career, like either a session or just getting dressed down by someone for saying like, fucking, you didn't get the shot, or just something memorable. That can be positive, negative, whatever.
I remember getting dressed down by Mark Healy on an electric boat trip once. I had no idea what was happening until it was happening, and it was just like... I think it was like one of my classic cases of me just not being aware of how autistic I was and just rambling on about something and just like not taking a second to be like, oh my God, I'm speaking to like one of like the most hardcore pipe chargers that's ever existed. And I was like trying to tell him about something to do with like, you could just imagine this little shit-nosed grommet that he's never met before. No, I'm just, there trying to tell him like something about how like pipeline isn't this or like that. And I just remember him like, I can't remember any of the specifics, but I just remember him stopping me and saying like something to me that just got me so rattled and scared. And I was just like, but like he was totally right because he's in a position where he can say and do whatever the fuck he wants when it comes to that. And I just remember like, that was... I mean, I did that shit all the time where I had, I just I didn't forget myself. I just never knew myself. Yeah. And I was just ramble on about something stupid and try and make like, just not even cohesive. Just didn't really know where I was in the world. Therefore, I just say things that, no filter, just say things in my mind. And I don't even know what I said, but I just remember that feeling of him just like verbally demoing me in such a passive-aggressive, calm way, like, consummate professional or whatever the word of the phrase
pulled
is.
You up.
Just like, and, I mean, my entire adolescence and 20s were covered in moments like that from many different places. It was one of those things where I was like, oh my God, like, I am just... why is this shit keep happening? It was one of those like diagnostic criterias, that was like, I don't understand why all these people keep like acting this way towards me when all I'm doing is, this or that. Like you couldn't put a finger on it. It was just this like aura of things. But that was one memory on a boat trip where I was just like so embarrassed, but had no idea what I'd done or said to deserve it.
Yeah.
And, that was pretty funny. But those
That's good. No, that's a good
I
story.
think any Grom filmer, any filmer that gets to go on a boat trip and live that dream, considering that I'd grown up watching Crakey on Young Guns doing boat trips, going, wow, that's the most amazing trip. And it's still to this day the best trip I could hope to do.
Yep.
Pretty much when I get called up to do a boat trip, I'm just like, as long as it's on my terms and people aren't like, forcing me to go to the beach or whatever, I'm like, fuck yeah, I know how to do it. Let's do this.
Yeah,
Not my
sick.
first rodeo.
How many boat trips do you reckon you've been on?
I've done 10 now.
Oh, 10?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say like 80.
No, I'm not that lucky. I think
right.
coronavirus put a fucking hole in that a
Oh,
bit, but
yeah,
I made up in the last few years.
Yeah, cool.
But, all that kind of stuff. Like, I've done enough boat trips to have a decent understanding of how that zone works.
Yeah. I mean, 10 is still
Yeah.
20 weeks driving around.
Yeah.
Immense,
Pretty
like,
much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fuck all compared to, those super core Indo lords and stuff, but I'm not super core. I'm just semi-core. But,
yeah, cool.
But yeah, I mean, I did like one of those greatest sessions or greatest surfing you've ever seen with Stab Mag when I was in Hawaii
that
a
was
few
cool.
years
I
back,
watched that.
and
Yep.
that was so like it's not much point banging on about that too much, but that wave that we scored at the on that trip that I went on about in that podcast, that was one of those things where it's like just psycho.
Yeah.
It's just incredible, that experience.
And who was on that trip with you?
Well, 7. You want me to list all of them? Yeah.
Nah.
Just watch the film. If you don't
Okay.
have Stab Media or Stab Premium, you should probably get it. It's great.
Or at least borrow your mate's password.
Yeah. I've doled out a couple, but hey, at the end of the day, it's supporting legitimate surf media, which is it's hard to come by these years. That's not a plug. That's just saying, like, out of all the surf media that is now today,
Still kicking.
It's one of the rare bits of surf media that's actually worth putting into.
Yeah, yeah.
But up to you.
Yeah,
Your choice.
That's cool. No, I've got a membership. I'm keen because
I got given a filmer's password.
Oh,
it was
did
great.
you? Oh shit! Did they give them to retired filmers who made really B grade movies back in the day?
Fuck, maybe you should do a greatest surfing you've ever seen thing and talk about fucking Crakey and Kirby and Yaden and all that up in the desert or some shit.
I'd be Ant-Man, I reckon.
Oh, yeah, Ant-Man at Bluff or going punching through centuries.
Just punching.
One of the first things I ever saw up there was Ant-Man punching a bomb through centuries.
Really?
I was like, what the fuck? Is that happening all the time? And they're like, no. Wizard shit.
Yeah, for sure it is. Yeah.
But where were we?
We're talking about boat trips and shit.
Yeah.
Mate, let's talk about... I've just got random notes written down here. One recently that you were on a trip, that cloud break session with Nathan
Thought that was going to
Florence.
come up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, these unbelievable images have come from
Might
people
need
on
another
boats. And
Might need another beverage.
sure, let's press pause and we'll start with cloud break. All right, quick refreshment break there. We're back
Delicious.
and we were going to talk about the cloud break session because when it came out earlier this year, there were some really amazing images of just huge, super clean, barreling blue waves. And, one of Nathan Florence standing tall and a couple other guys. That Solly Bailey got an amazing one. And, mate, there's just a little speck in the foreground of a lot of those photos. And turns out that was our man, Mr. Jenno over here. Tell us about that trip.
Twas. That was a really it was an interesting kickoff. There's a I don't know, maybe it's boring, but I find it really cool. Backstory to the start of that trip because halfway through last year, the surf industry went through a bit of an upheaval and a shuffle, and I feel like every year it's been doing that. It's almost like the status quo with the surf industry. Every now and again, people get comfortable. Oh, we just need to sell off a company and get everyone rattled and all that kind of stuff, and jobs stop happening. And so I'd had a really good start to last year, and then the back half was just a desert. And I was, coming into the new year all confident and ready to go, and everything was ready, but I was so rattled because I hadn't had work for so long. And then, as you do, particularly when you got no work, I'm firing up every connection I have, trying to be like, hey, I want to do a trip. Like, let's do this and stuff. And you know, it's just basically like, yeah, if we get a budget or whatever, crickets, like hopefully this happens, and like so many dead ends and just misfires and just gets at you. It's not like you're a tradie and you've got like people constantly needing, you know, electrician stuff done or roofs done or whatever. It's like it's
almost optional.
It's an optional. It's a luxury job. You know, it's a luxury trade. Like so, like you have to be lucky to have surfers and companies going, yeah, we're going to spend that money on you to go and travel somewhere and do that for whatever reason. And, you know, it'd been like 8 months since I'd actually done a job. And I don't know if it was like months since I'd had a decent swim. And I'd get everything ready and I was all fired up and then there was a forecast for one of my favorite waves that pumps during summer on the rare occasion. And it popped up and I was getting all charged up for that. And I hadn't swum. I hadn't put my camera in the housing for months. You know, it gets pretty bleak over here for quality waves.
And that favourite wave, we're not mentioning it, but is that in Australia or?
Oh, it's just around the corner.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's the closest to my house kind of thing. It's like, you know, it's my most local of locals.
Yep.
Anyway, so I was getting ready for that. And I think I was like basically checking the bank the day before to see if it was good, and I was like, good, tomorrow is going to be sick. And then like I was just so stoked, and then and like literally hadn't swum for months.
Really?
And I got my camera ready, and I was like psyched for that. And then like that day while I was checking it, my friend Logan, who is the mastermind behind the Snap film series, which I guess is like an American version of lubrication in a way. Like, yeah, kind of. It's like back in the day, it was like Andy and Bruce and all those crew. Like it was, but it was very much like, I guess, you know, halfway between lubrication and campaign, all that Taylor Steele films, like somewhere there.
More successful.
But hey, success is measured by enjoyment.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, I had a good time.
But you know, he was like, hey, might have something for you, and I just coincidentally like scrolling, you know, Surfline loves to do blowout swells. I'd just seen something about like posting about something, and I was like, I looked at it and I said, are you looking at Fiji? And he's like, you know, you're onto it, brother, kind of thing. And I was like, okay, what's going on? He's like, I'm trying to get a trip going. Do you want to go? And I was like, fuck yeah. I've been like, you know, been prepping myself to go on a trip, and like, you know, I went to Fiji once on a Rip Curl women's shoot. And that was really sick, but, you know, it was off season and, you know, it was basically cutback central, and it just wasn't, you know, beautiful place, had a great time, but didn't really get any, went to cloud break and it was 2 foot dribble.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I want to go back there. And he was like, yeah, you'd need to like fly out, you know, Friday or whatever. And this was Wednesday Arvo. And I knew like the next day, I had, maybe it was the night of that. I don't know. Anyway, so I was like, you know, sucked it up, drank some water, threw myself in the deep end, and I ended up having a 6-hour swim out at my favorite zone.
Yep.
Warmed myself up, got my ankles all like, I was like, and it was pumping, and I was just like, right, got home, took the camera out of the housing, didn't even log the clips, just got everything organized, had to remember, you know, it's been 8 months since I've, you know, geared up and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And just like got everything ready. And so like it was a trip for Snap, which is why you've barely seen any of my footage, because that film's going to be fucked up when it comes out.
What number is that?
5, I think.
Oh yeah, cool.
But it was with Connor and Parker Coffin and Benji. Mm-hmm. I had no idea, but those guys have had like a huge amount of history there. Connor and Parker and families gone there since ever, staying on Tavarua, and they know all the people there, and it's like cool, but I had no idea of any of this stuff. Anyway, we talked business and rates and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, this is going to be the sickest. And then he was like, oh yeah, and Nate and Billy are going to be going as well, and I was like, okay, cool. I know Nate, but I didn't know Billy.
Yep.
You know, but I knew Nate, and I was like, oh cool. And Tucker, I call him Tucker Carlson, but Tucker Wooding, who's one of very few tolerable drone pilots in the surf world, was coming as well. I was really interested to like hang out with these people, engage it, you know, because some of them I knew.
Have you got ongoing beef with drone guys? Should we come back to that later?
It's not really worth the time, but you know, if you know what you're doing with the drone, you don't have an issue.
Yeah, cool.
But if you're there for a bit of fun and you're just acting like a mosquito, then fuck off, you know.
Yeah, cool. Sorry. Keep
But
going.
yeah, I was just like, some of those crew I've known well for years, and some of them didn't know from a bar or so. But all you see in the media of this, that, or that, and you're like, you form an opinion based on this, and you're like, oh, So I was like, open mind. I looked at the forecast and I was like, oh yeah, 3.7 at 17 seconds. Like for here, that's barely a swell that'll tickle North Point because of the refractions and everything. So I was like, I didn't really know how the bathymetry at Cloudbreak worked in terms of channeling swells and picking it up. I knew that it's like picks up swell, but
it's definitely deeper, no continental shelf.
yeah,
So,
but it's like, you see a swell like that for North Point, you're like, could be 4 foot, could be 6 foot. You never know.
Yeah.
If it's west enough or,
Yeah.
it might end up being pretty good, but you don't get, same with Toomies. Like you see a
Yeah.
swell like that, you're kind of like, could be 6 foot,
Yeah.
could be 10 foot. You don't know until you're there. And, you know, so I was like, oh yeah, looks like could be some good waves. This would be sick. I'll give it a crack. And then I rock up and, those, when Nate's rocking up and then Billy's rocking up and they've got their big boards, you're kind of like, oh, is it going to be like one of those things? Whoa, this could be cool. Anyway, we had like a couple of flat days before, had the beers, went fishing, caught fuck all fish. But like, it was because all those guys are all like, Hawaiian heavies or big dogs and stuff. They're like, knew the owners and stuff. So we were staying at like the owner of Tavarua Resorts, like house, like personal house, 2-story mansion thing.
Yeah, right.
On the tip of the island looking straight across the channel into Cloudbreak. And I was
Awesome.
like, oh my God, you get like, it's like, landing on your feet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was really sick, just like a crazy experience. And, we had one warm-up session when the swell started filling in the morning before, and it was like small and crowded and like, it's kind of almost, it's tricky and harder to swim on the inside ledge than any, it's like not even that good. It's like swell lines moving around and peaks here and closeouts there. And it's like, there are crazy good waves that come through when it's 4 or 5 foot in there, but it's kind of like a beach break almost with swell lines. But that arvo, the wind came in, but there was, it starts breaking on the outside bommy and all that kind of stuff. And then, had make sure I was prepared for the next day. And then like next morning, the previous day, the lagoon and like restaurants and stuff had been barely breaking and the boats are like just cruising out in flat water. And then the next morning there's like, 2 foot wedges like slurping onto the beach and shit going everywhere. I'm like, oh, this is a bit different. Like something's happened,
Okay.
And we get out there, it's the most amazing sunrise. And then like, you just see these swell lines coming in and you're just like, oh shit. Like big. I mean, I've been out the right when it's 20 plus foot, I know what a big swell line looks like.
Yeah.
But it's different there because everything's just so long and just running down the reef, and it's like just a different dynamic. And it was just like, holy shit. And of course there's like a bunch of swell event crew there, and you got timber knifing there, just like timber knifing out and just like going huge. And it's, it's comical in a way, but it's like cool. It's kind of sick, this is like, it's a special
event.
Swell event.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was just like, those guys were like, holy shit, we're on kind of thing. The tide was getting lower. The swell was, sorry.
Yeah, right.
The swell was on the,
back there. That's okay.
yeah, got to stretch the big frame.
Yeah.
The swell was meant to peak at a certain time, and we're just, I guess in the tropics, that you never know if the wind's going to go southeast or northeast or stay easterly, or at any moment it could have just flipped and gone, it's shit. You go all that way and then the wind just doesn't play fair.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not like a West Oz easterly.
Yeah.
And so everyone was just, out there and on there. And I was like, Jesus Christ, do I have this in me? I've only swam for 6 hours 2 days earlier for the first time and whatever. And I was like, But my other camera that I had to shoot on the boat, it just didn't feel like the lens and the fact that there was like, a bunch of boats jostling in the channel, and there's insiders here and there's ones out the back, and the language breakdown between the boat driver and all that kind of stuff. I was just like, man, if one of these guys gets a bomb and someone else on a ski or another boat is in front of me, then my shot's ruined. I'm done. Like, that was the biggest thing. I was just like, well, my housing's ready, and I've been waiting for an opportunity like this ever since that 2011 Thundercloud day or whatever. I was like, mate, I might get the shit kicked out of me, but if I don't tap in right now,
Yeah.
I'm going to be feeling like the biggest knobhead later.
Yeah.
And I was just like, right, there's like the drone guy, there's like a bunch of other cameras, like they've got this, like, you know,
you need something different.
Logan's got me here. He wants something different. He wants something special. He doesn't want me to just shoot the same as Zord and Mikey and all those, you know, Timber Knife, and they're all going to do their things. They've all got their things. And, you know, luckily, you know, there was a bunch of skis in the water. Like, I wouldn't do that if there wasn't safety and there wasn't all that. You wouldn't do it at the right. If you were just solo seshing and there's no chance, you'd be stupid to do it at the right. Like, it doesn't matter how hardcore you think you are or how much training you've done to put yourself in that much of a dynamic environment.
Yeah.
That's just dumb.
Safety,
you know?
Yeah. Do you have like bigger flippers than normal or any?
My fins were broken, dude.
Oh, what?
That's the thing. I've hung up my fins. They were both split. I'd put them on the wrong fins originally, so the split was on the wrong side of my foot. So I had to change my fins up like once I got in the water, and then after that session, I hung them up. They're still sitting at home as like they're the Cloud Break fins. Done.
Yeah, cool.
Got new fins the day I got back.
So
but
you don't have any like. Because you don't want impact vest or any of that sort of
that's
stuff.
the thing. All the surfers have the vests and the pull cords and all that stuff. But as a filmer,
you want to be able
in
to
the
get
water,
under
you
them.
need to slip underwater like you're popping out of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's so it's like, if I did get smoked by something, I would have got demoed.
Yeah.
But you know, that's not trying to talk it up. I'm not trying to puff my chest up or anything. It's just would have. But that wave is so mechanical and does not shift in the fact that I was actually hoping for bigger and bigger waves because it wouldn't shift. It would get better and better to shoot.
Okay.
Like, because the smaller ones are maybe a bit armony or might not hit out the back and like go under me. And, you know, like Lindo got a crazy one that went completely under me and that, you know, and shit like that. But the bigger they were, all I needed to do was make sure that the boats were that far away from me. The skis were there and like try and triangulate and be like, you know, but you'd have a 12-footer breaking like 50 meters away and it would like barely even be barreling, and then you'd pop over it and a 15-footer would just be on the back ledge and you'd be like, whoa.
Steaming past
seeing these lines going for 200 meters and you're just like, whoa. But at the same time, you look down, you see how deep the water is and you know you're fine as long as you know. But yeah, I jumped in the water because everyone else was doing the same thing and I was like, this is my chance. This is the crack at the whip.
Yep.
And, you know, every now and again, one of the skis would give me a lift out because there was a, not extreme, but consistent pull down the reef.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you're on a big board or whatever, you just paddle against it, no worries. But, you know, the further you got down, the stronger it got. So I was just like trying to stay far enough up the peak so I didn't get too far down the end. And every now and again, I'd get a lift up from someone's ski and it was sick. Like Daniel Russo was out there. He's the only other guy I know that shot footage from the water out there, and he did that on that big day.
Yeah, cool.
And so he was there just filming off his ski and doing safety, and it was really cool that he was coming up to me going, yeah, I'll give you a lift, mate. It's sick to see you do it, kind of thing. Gave me like heaps of confidence.
Tipped off of the cap from
I had to do one battery change after 4 hours, and then after that I didn't really get anything. But you know, I had just 6 hours of swimming non-stop with, I don't know, how big would you call that, like 12 to 15 foot solid, like
maybe 18 foot. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean,
it's big.
Some people try and talk it up. Some people try and talk it down. All I know, it was as big as fuck. And those hog lords are like paddling in, and they're just like on the biggest boards, and they still look tiny. I mean, those couple of link ups, I got a Solly.
Yeah.
I'm just looking. I'm like, it's like Toomey's without steps, but just like 3 times the size.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's all it was for me. It was just swimming out at Toomey's, but less shallow. No steps, but just so much bigger. I guess like Midgey's is the only comparison in terms of waves. Like, you know, if you got an incredibly clean, big low tide day up at Midgey's, it would be similar.
Yeah. But it just doesn't have that consistent channel, does it?
Well, I think if it was big enough and consistent enough, it kind of would.
Oh, yeah.
It never really breaks out wide of that reef. It just hits that bowl and kind of hooks in. But, you know, I would never really think of swimming out at Midgey's when it was big, just because I just wouldn't think of it.
No.
But out at Cloudbreak, it's just so ridiculously on the corner. It just hits that ledge and it can't go anywhere.
That's awesome.
It can't shift in. The swells can't come from another angle, or they can't like max out on a ledge. You know.
Has that trumped your best surfing you've ever seen, or was it just the waves were the best you've seen, or was it neither?
It's hard to say. Like, I just think it's part of a complete breakfast.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's just part of, I break everything down into each year.
Yep.
1 year I score these waves, I get this session, I do these trips. That's 1 year. This year I do this. And like, I look at what I've scored this year and, lefts, rights, big, small, airs, barrels, suns, morning sessions, arvo sessions, good lighting, all that kind of stuff, land footage, water. I break it all down and I've gone, this year I have ticked so many boxes that I just haven't been fussed in the last couple of months. I'm like bagged out.
Cool.
I know the bank account wants me to do some more stuff, but like, doesn't it always?
Yeah, that's it.
It's just...
Is it some of the biggest surf you've swum in?
Yeah, the only... Well, I got to have a swim out at the right. Did a 6.5 hour swim out at the right.
This year?
A few months later, and it was like 15 foot. Like, insane. That Arvo was like some crazy waves, and I was getting in some really interesting positions, and I was blown away by some of the shots I got.
Yeah.
Totally different type of surf, but once again, like, so that in two huge sessions in 1 year, that's pretty rare for anything that big and clean.
Yeah, cool.
But the only time I also swam the left this year as well. That was pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
Me and Ari got out there. It was only a small mid-sized day, but it was still a challenge because that wave's a bit different to the right. But those really big sessions, I've only swum the right 2 other times. One was in 2016, and that was huge.
Yep.
Russ and Ange were swimming as well. So I was like, as soon as someone tries to get in front of me, I can't take it.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah. If someone else is doing it, I'm doing it because, like, I'm not going to call Russ out and be like, oh, get out of my shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have a certain level of respect together, but like, if he's in the water, I'm like, well, I'm not going to be in the water.
Yeah.
So, that was in 2016. 2016, it was in May. It was a huge day. It was like really rogue and like almost 30 foot in the morning. And then it cleaned up and just got perfect. And I jumped out. That was my first session, swim out there. And that was incredible. And then I think it was 2020. It was, as the pandemic was starting to get a bit silly.
Yeah.
There was a session out the right. It was only mid-sized, 12 foot. But with the odd bigger one, but super clean and blue, and I got some amazing shots swimming that day as well. What was
scarier, swimming the right or swimming big cloud break?
Jeez. Cloudy because I wasn't used. I don't know. There's so many skis at the right. It's turbo junkies. You've got people doing donuts around your left, right, and center, and there's no current out there. Obviously there's current where the wave's breaking, but there's no current in the channel. Not even on the channel. Like the other day, the last time I was out there, I was looking down and you're like, I can see the reef. I'm pretty close. Yeah. But there's no current pulling you in and around if there's not waves breaking. And there's so many skis that if you do get in trouble, someone's grabbing you up. Yeah. I got like a 12-footer on the head on that 2016 day. And
did you?
I was recounting the story to Rex the other day, or like a month or two back, and he was like, yeah, I was the one that came and picked you up. And I was like, oh, really? That was you? Fuck it. That's sick. Because I remember getting so demoed, like bear hugging my housing and just getting like trying to swim deep and then just getting so ragdolled.
Really?
And just like, and popping up 50 meters on the inside like it was nothing.
Wow.
Just like, but there's so much ski safety out at the right.
Yep.
But out at Cloudy, I think it's a bit different. Because like the wave's way longer and it's mainly boats and there's only a couple of skis.
Oh yeah.
But I think, also in a wetsuit you're more comfortable because you've got a bit of flotation and the right's a lot shorter. So it's not, but so I'm rarely swimming through anything at the right because it just bowls so hard. But
yeah,
out at Cloudy, that long wall. You watch a couple like that, one of Nate or whatever, like I'm charging myself up to swim under those things, like to swim through them, hold the shot steady. But usually when I'm shooting water, my legs are just kind of like balancing and just like moving around to keep me stable. But out at Cloudy, they were pumping hard just to like, I was full gyro cameraman, but my legs were just swimming, bolting after every of those waves because the wall was so long.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize that, there's 2 types of barrels. There's bowls and then there's runners.
Yeah.
And so, runners are like pretty much almost closeouts in the fact that you can stay in the barrel a lot longer in a bowl
Yeah.
than in a wally wave, because the wave keeps going past you and it pulls you down, it pulls you along.
Yeah.
But with a bowl, it's kind of done.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's so easy to shoot water at Chopu, because it's such a bowl. You can just sit right in the corner and the thing just twists and it does
Yeah.
all the work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But out at Cloudy, I was having to go turbo motor legs to like keep that momentum up. So when it was time to go under, I had enough momentum to break out the back of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's more challenging for sure.
Yeah. 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 I can see why. Mate, what was the best clip you got that day at Cloudy?
It's really frustrating because, you know, not every wave has a different dynamic in terms of, you know, every wave has a different dynamic in terms of the water. It's like the turgidity of the water, and different climates, different types of water, depending on the sea lice, will have different viscosities.
Oh, yeah.
And I've noticed it in some tropical places how the water can like kind of glub up and stick to your port a bit more or whatever. And for people that don't know, you got to get your port clean, and there's different ways of doing it. And some people go this way, some people go that way. But I always shoot wet port because I don't shoot any longer lens than 40 mil in the water because I don't want to.
Yeah.
So
what's wet port? Just where you're spitting on it, or?
You lick your port. There's a thin film of, I guess, saliva. I don't know what the science is behind it, but it basically means that salt water will sluice off, and there's a very thin layer of salt water that stays on your port. So it's optically still good, but you can't shoot past a certain millage, otherwise it gets too soft. But for wide angle and for up to 40 mil, it's still really good. But in Fiji, a couple of my shots is one I got a Benji where I was just looking straight at him, standing bolt upright in a bomb, and a bit of foam that was just, you know, just so much energy out there. Like foam just landed on my port and didn't sluice off, so half the shot's completely blurry.
Oh, hectic.
And it also happened on Nate's one that
did it?
everyone has seen, but only there was a bit, and then it kind of moved off, and then like there's a part there which is pretty sharp, not super sharp, but then it happened at the end, another bit hit. And the rest of the shots were all pretty sweet, but those were the two biggest link ups, and it was just like kind of like, shit. Not much you can do about it. And you know, Benji's shot will still get run and snapped, and Nate's shot's still one of my favorite. Like, they could have been better. So there's always that motivation that next time I got to remember that and be prepared for it, and like
have bigger spits.
Yeah. But there was so many shots I got, like the two of Solly's were perfect pin sharp, and then there's like sick ones that
have you released them? Or?
Oh yeah, Solly's ones are in his film.
Oh, are they? Yeah, cool.
What is it? Tube head or metal head or meat head or something? No.
Yeah.
What is it?
Conehead.
Conehead. That's the one.
Yes.
Yeah, Sol.
Yeah. Cool.
And yeah, so there's that, and then like, yeah, you know, yeah, Billy got a couple, Connor and Park got a couple, like Glindo. I didn't really link up with Glindo, but you know, Solly and Glindo just rocked up coincidentally with one of my favorite filmmakers to work with, Mikey. That I was just on Instagram, and like I saw them post something of a palm tree, and I was like, you know, it was like Fiji. I was like, you're kidding. He's like, yeah, man, we just got here. I was like, mate, look where I am. And we're just like, are you kidding me? Like, we're like such good mates. And
cool. Who's Mikey?
Mikey Malaloo.
Okay.
I've done heaps of Billabong projects with him, and he's just like, just a good lad. Just
cool.
Good filmmaker, and just, I've always, you know, sometimes you just mesh with someone, and you're like, yep. Did we just become best friends kind of thing? Like, shit, yeah, let's make a movie.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, classic. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, it was a pretty awesome session, and definitely got a bit of coverage, and yeah, I think there was definitely a bit of a talk of like, who's that dude swimming around? Did you have any close calls? It sounded like it was pretty ruler edge. Did you have any where you were just like, oh man?
No, that was I said, like I got to a point where I was just like, the bigger the better, come at me. I know I've got this figured out. And I think that's weird. You have to click into a certain mode to go turbo. And I'm not doing it every day, but you know, like I came home from that, and then like a week or two later there was a box session, and there's like 4-foot South Peaks, and you're like diving under these things, and you're like, holy shit, this is so much sketchier than swimming huge cloud break. Like you're just like on dry reef getting demoed, or like you have to pin it, and you're just like, fuck, this sucks. This is like hard.
Yeah.
You know, box is like that, but it's like, so you've got to know every inch of that reef out there to figure it out. And it's like, it's such a different dynamic. But I do remember that coming back thinking I was like, you know, the Skitzers Lord, like, yeah, man, I just swum the biggest cloud break, like puffing my chest out and then getting like humbled at 4 foot box. Like, oh
crazy.
shit, pull your head in, buddy.
Yeah, right.
But that's you know,
that's cool. Yeah,
that's what I love about West Oz. But it's like you can do that to you. Like there's no real perfect waves over here.
No.
They've all got their like intricacies that on their day, like sure they well, individual waves can be perfect and there's some incredible spots, but they've all got their moods.
Yeah.
And they can all send you to the sin bin if you're not too careful.
Yeah,
and
cool.
It's fantastic. It keeps everything interesting and challenging and fun.
Mate, talking about waves over here, Chippo's just releasing a new edit coming soon.
He is.
Jacob Willcox.
Yep.
You've partnered up with him a lot over his career, or have you? Oh, I don't know. That's a question.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were like, oh, we've partnered. I was like, have you really?
Oh, no. I said you've.
Oh, yeah. Chippo's one of those guys that, like, you know, he's in that demographic younger than me. And, you know, when I was, you know, doing the Crakey stuff or, like, even, you know, past that, I started filming with Creed and he was, like, this little young, whippy shithead kind of thing. I remember doing a trip up to Nalu and Jay was injured and just fishing, but I was up there, came up with him and Moondogger and Dino and we were camping. And I was like, I'm going to make a film with Dino. I made a section for Ruka, who's his sponsor. And
Dino Adrian.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just Core Lord.
Yeah.
All these Core Lords. Jeez, it's like a core overdose of corners.
Awesome. Underground
It's so
Hellman.
sick.
Yep.
They're all such legends.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, enough about that. But yeah, I went up there and I was like, all right, I'm going to hang out with Dino. It was the first trip I ever drove my Subaru Forester up, swag in the back and like just fully like I think I drove up there with one of my tires on the fabric. It was so bald.
Yeah, cool.
I got up there, didn't blow out, and I changed the tire just because I was like, I don't want to, you know. Anyway, but it was like my first time actually driving myself up there, and I remember it was like, I think it was Chippo and Chunny, Sean Manners, and they were doing this little thing for tracks. They were such little pinners back then. But, like, you know, obviously immense talent, just real young and just hadn't come into it yet. Like, Creed was still, you know, Creed was well established by that point, like, doing incredible shit. But, like, those guys were that 3 or 4 or 5 years younger and just, like, hadn't quite hit their stride. But Chippo was showing some serious, you know, potential. I mean, so was Chunny. But, like, I just remember, like, I think Chunny's time came like the next year or the year after, but Chippo had like, because he was front side out at Toomey's, had just kind of found his little thing, and I was like, fuck, that guy's a little whippy shithead. But like ever since then, he's like kind of grown up, and then we went through a few things, and he kind of became like, I think the coronavirus kind of like forced some friendships to end or forced some friendships to become more real.
Yeah, okay.
It kind of did that to a lot of people. And
interesting.
I don't want to talk about that period of time at all. It's fucking ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I shared some incredible sessions with Chippo in that period of time. And, you know, he was, you know, always filming with Isaac Jones, who's now like West Oz Paul Fisher.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. You probably hate me saying that, but he's like an absolute... He's done so well with his like party stuff and his like DJing stuff, and it's so sick to see him do that. But like, you know, I was always like, oh, those two, they're there. I'm not gonna like try and like push Isaac out. Like, you know, they're a team. Let them do that. But I'd always like, you know, get a water clip here or there, Chippo, and like, you know, you do this and that, and then Isaac kind of had to like do his own thing. He was sick of just filming those boys and just getting pretty fuck all for it and whatever. And so he, you know, business person, went to Perth and started his businesses, and they're doing really well. And
yeah, cool.
And Chippo kind of got to that stage where he just started getting really good, and we just bonded over a couple of things and just humor and, you know, going up north and getting good waves. Like, I like filming with crew that just don't fuck around. Like, you know, we're here to do it. Like, let's not wait too much. Like, if it's on, we're out there, we're going to go hard, let's do this. Like, let's not just come in and wait for the tide, or just go in, you know. A lot of crew up there will like go out for an hour and then, I'll just go in and have some water and then come back. I'm like, nah, mate, I'm swimming out there. I'm out there till my battery's dead. We're out there till the death. We're either doing it or we're not. And Chippo's always been that kind of guy that's like, right, I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
Kind of
cool.
Robbo spec as well, where Robbo would do like an 8-hour sesh, or like
Yeah.
crew will put like muesli bars in their weddy and just be like, right, I'm out here till the wind's in, or I'm out here till the tide's too low. Like, I'm just doing it. I've just driven a full day for this shit. I'm not
Yeah.
blowing it. I'm not sitting in the car park talking shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess I just kind of gravitated towards, same with Jay. Jay Davies, no bullshit surfer, just gets out there and handles it.
Yep.
And I like that, all those guys. And I've done a few projects with Chippo where I've collaborated, like I've sold him clips or whatever for stuff he's been working on with Isaac and all that. But I think this year he really came to me with like, I'm on the tour, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I have this time here and I have this time there, I have this budget, what do you reckon? And out of anyone I've ever worked on with a personal project, we kind of had this, I don't know whether I just got older and got more confident and knew what I wanted. But, I said to him, all right, we can do this, 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 and this. And he said, all right, sweetheart. Sorry, I'm burping heaps.
That's right. Get him out, mate. Good honest drop. We'll do that to you.
Yep. And I was like, I want to, he knew what he wanted to do and I know how to do it. That's just,
In a
easy
nutshell,
to say.
yeah.
Like, and, I've worked with a lot of crew that like my filming, but then want to have it edited some other way, or they want to do this and that. And I'm like, yeah, look, I'm not gonna edit your project if we're gonna be butting heads about the fact that you don't like this song choice, or you don't like, you want this here or that there. Like, you need to understand that if I'm gonna edit, I do things my way. And so Chippo was like, look, I want to make sure that I get what I want out of this, but I trust you and I like the way you do your things.
Yeah.
And so this whole project, we haven't had the usual head butting over like something that's subjective or whatever. We've been on the same project the whole way, and we only did like a 10-day shoot here and a 10-day shoot there and a few other days here and there. So it was really like kind of like controlled in a way. Like, it was like 10 days of intense shooting and then a trip up north for a week or two.
Yep.
And just really not fucking around with the B grade stuff, and just when it was worth it, we'd go in and we'd get it done.
Yeah.
And I really liked that we just kind of made it happen. None of that kind of like, oh, we're shooting for the whole year and like shooting every day or all the time and, getting fuck all most of the time and then grinding it. And then at the end of that project, you kind of don't want to even look at the person. You're like, oh, fucking done with this, man. That was too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was really about like having a good time and just pouncing on the days that were worth it.
Sick.
He's paying me per day to shoot. So it's like, mate, why would we go and shoot shit waves? You're going to have to pay me. It's up to you. Like, it's up to you to choose whether you think it's worth blowing a couple $100 for that onshore shitty session, or would you rather just not spend that and then wait for it to be good and just, And he was like, yeah, totally. Like, fuck shooting that crap. Let's just go and get the
gold
good stuff. And I think that worked really well because we weren't just like blowing our energy on just everyday crappy surf to try and milk it. We just tapped in when it was right.
Yeah,
and
good.
we made the most of the sessions.
And that's is that out for people to watch now, or is it still coming? And what's it called? The new
it's just called Chip.
Oh yeah, cool. Because it's just about to premiere pretty soon or something, isn't it?
So yeah, I don't know when this potty's going to be coming out or whatever, but
yeah.
What's today? Sunday. It's
Sunday.
coming out.
Sometimes these potties take a month or two to come out.
You're sponsored by this beer brand, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention the other beer brand.
No, you can, mate. It's all good. Yeah.
So Chippo is sponsored by Gauge Roads,
Yeah.
and it's going to be premiering on Thursday. What day is it?
I think it's the
8th?
8th.
12th?
Yeah.
12th. Thursday,
in
12th
4
at Gauge
days.
Roads in Perth. So
Yeah.
So that's the prem, and then he's got a couple other prems organised, and then I'll probably drop on Stab at some point and stuff.
Yep.
But it's essentially done. I rendered it today.
Oh, did you? Worked on it today,
I
fresh.
Showed the misso. Chanel thought it was sick. She loved the subtitles.
Oh, that's good.
Because it's not just surf. I mean, it is, but there's also a bit about his thoughts on the tour and how it went for him and all that, and how that shaped his mind, how he used that to pivot, and then all that kind of stuff. I think it's cool. I wouldn't say it's different, but it was a challenge for me to do something to what I usually do, because I usually just don't do audio.
Yeah.
I don't have microphones. I don't do vloggy stuff. So I didn't record his interview. I didn't record his words, but it was fun to kind of go back to the more like to balance the audio out and edit that and make it like really cool and like sound good and flow with the music and stuff. So I'm really happy with how the film's come out. And it's like, it's pretty much 17 minutes, but it's just, I think it's a really good balance of surf cinema and surfing and
a bit of story.
All the stuff. And
he's been on a pretty hectic journey, competitive surfing wise, hasn't he? I mean, fuck, we all know, we're all big fans here of Chippo being a West Aussie. We're all fucking behind him big time. And man, he's had a couple, like maybe 3 or 4 years now where he's missed out by a bee's dick on qualifying. Then he finally got there and then just got super unlucky and got bumped off. And
well, that's, it's nutshelled in the film.
Yeah.
It's not a sob story. It's like, it's not anything like that. It's just briefly touching on the highs and the lows of the year.
Yeah.
And it's done in a way that's, I think, really authentic and just, it's, I don't really want to put anything out that's garbage. So like I put a lot of effort into making sure that it was refined and clean and tells a cohesive story that people can follow. I mean, it's not a story. It's like a couple of passages of his
timeline.
podcast. Really, it's just talking like, talking about a few of his experiences with overlays and beautiful footage.
Yeah, cool.
And so, and it's just, there's a lot of sick surfing and beautiful tubes. And, yeah,
wicked. Oh, sounds good, man. Look forward to seeing it for sure. Mates, let's talk about, sounds like Chippo is one of your favourite people to work with. I did have a question, like, who's one of your...
Hang on, I thought this was a zero.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Oh, it's not the right...
No, it's the wrong can.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is 1.4. Jesus. But it is a 0 and a 1.4.
Yeah, that's why it's a good one, yeah.
All
right. Bit of sneaky stuff going on there.
As long as it's not a 1.4 and a 0.
No, that's right. No, it's all good. Mate, it sounds like Chippo's maybe one of your favourite people to work with. I was going to ask you who is some of your favourite subjects to film, and conversely, who's been the most troublesome, if you want to mention them.
Oh, no, you're not mentioning troublesome. But I would say that Chippo has become an incredible friend over the years. I would say Jay as well has become a really good friend over the years. Like he's been through his up and downs. Like we've worked on projects and we've butted heads and all this kind of stuff. But, where he is with his surfing at the moment and where I am with my filming, like I get a lot of joy out of filming with him. Like he came up north with us as well when like me, Chippo and Jay, we kind of went up. Chippo's family came up as well and we're all just kind of cruising and like, getting waves together. And, Jay's been working on getting footage for the former film that will be coming out at some point, I believe.
All right, cool.
So, with Ando and Dane and Chunny and all those crew, and that's going to be really sick because I've got some really beautiful stuff with Jay.
Unreal.
He's really hard on himself, but he's just still a fantastic surfer.
Oh, yeah, man.
He's just kind of like a fine wine. He's just got better as a bloke.
Yeah, yeah.
At least in my opinion.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
But I've pretty much worked with all the West Oz pro guys at some point.
Yep.
To greater or lesser rates of success and to greater or lesser, rates of best mates. They're all still mates. Some of them are really good mates. Some of them are, just mates. Like, but like get on good with all of them. And there's pluses and minuses. And I think, especially when money's involved, it can really fray a friendship if it's not done properly. And I think, I've definitely had issues there where like, that's just...
It's business, it's work.
It's business, it's work, and some people understand it, some people don't, and like you just got to try and take a step back and just hope that, it sucks when that stuff gets in the way of a good thing.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty open to understanding how that stuff works and like, analyze it pretty good and stuff. But yeah, you're never going to talk about, the bad things. You just talk about, no point dwelling on the bad stuff,
Yeah.
I love shooting good surfing with good surfers that are good blokes, and some of them become my best mates. Like Creed is one of my biggest inspirations. I absolutely love him. He came and stayed at mine a few weeks ago, and it was just great. Like, you know, the amount of experiences that I've shared with him over the last, 10 plus years and all that kind of stuff. And just, we move away from each other. He lives over east, but then we'll do a Billabong trip, or he'll come over here, and it's just like best mates.
Yeah, cool.
Like, I know he has 1,000 best mates. I don't know where I rank on I don't know where I rank on his MySpace top friends or anything like that. But he's right up there for me. He's just like he's not just an absolutely ridiculous surfer, but he's just such a genuine, caring guy.
All right, cool.
And, it's just, so I mean, Creed's my favorite out of anyone.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like,
yeah, cool.
I just
and he
avoid
gets the job done too when the waves are on.
Well, I mean, when I wrapped up filming with Crakey years and years ago, and I kind of came back down to Perth, and I came back down here, and I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? And I bought a new camera, and because my Jerem was living with him at the time, and I'd known Jerem through another friend when I started filming, and
Jerem Forrest.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I went and met up with Jerem, and I was like, oh, you living with Creed? I'd love to come and film with Creed. And that's kind of where like me and Creed kicked off our friendship, and we started filming. And then a mosquito, oh, fuck that thing up. And so, yeah, Jerem's also like, he kind of gets left out of the pro surf kind of fold because technically not a pro surfer, but he's had such a huge part to play in my life and my journey, whether it's like, all those years ago helping me, reach out to Creed and become someone that, there, or like more recently filming with him, just, having fun sessions with him and creating. And, he's like one of my best friends.
Yep.
And we support each other through everything. And,
cool.
So, surfing for me has given me so much. I'm not a naturally social person.
Yeah.
I really struggle with a lot of forms of socializing, but surfing has given me that place and, allowed me to have those friendships that I would normally not have been able to achieve.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I'm so thankful for everything that's, the filming and surfing and everything has given me. And I've just got such a rich network of super talented guys that are my best mates.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's pretty rad.
Yeah, that's unreal.
But yeah.
So the worst person to work with, we won't name names, but can you explain the circumstances to why they were the worst subject?
Not really.
No.
Because as I said, like, as I said before loosely, it's usually like lack of financial respect. Like you put a lot of time and effort in for something, and if someone doesn't recognize that or realize it, there's been heaps of people like that.
Is there?
It's just like the surf industry is tight in terms of like, the budgets are shrinking. Like it's changed from being like an industry where the sponsors would just pay for everything and the surfers would just need to rock up, to the surfers really being given budgets that are never enough to do what they want.
Yeah.
And being basically told they need to make it happen. But they're not being taught how to manage things. And, some of them will get it naturally or have, be interested in it. And others will just be like, I go surf, you film, and you get what you're given kind of thing. Yeah. And it's like, it's a bit of a shit one. It's not directed at anyone in particular. It's like, I've had so many projects where I've worked like that. Well, that mosquito really wants to get fucked up.
Get him, mate. Get him.
Oh, no. Oh. He's still buzzing. He's going to get me ankles. Anyway, so...
Do you want some spray?
It's one of those interesting things where you go through life and you have positive experiences, you have negative experiences, and...
Yeah.
But if everything was positive, you wouldn't know what was good.
Yeah, that's right.
And you learn from that, and I've always been, pretty open-minded and to try and, like, see it... I like to see the forest from the trees. I like to see, analyze things and understand why things
Forest
are
from the trees, is that a little doff of the cap to Jez's latest edit?
That's his latest edit. I mean, because he's a forest.
Yeah, I know. Mate, just quietly, I was responsible for naming that one.
Well, yeah. Did you talk to him? Oh, because he did a podcast with
you. He came and did a potty, and I was like, I got in his ear, and I was like, what about this? But that's about all I've got to claim, mate. That's my claim.
He was claiming it.
Yeah, I'm claiming it.
I think I might have said that to him completely separately, and he's like, oh yeah, and
maybe it was two people, and he's just like, damn, I got to go with this.
Yeah,
it's a pretty common saying. It's not exactly but anyway, mate, so the surf industry, Jezza did tell me to ask you about that because you obviously got a pretty good feel from it. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's changed a lot. And like what you were saying there, that makes sense to me. Like, you only got to look at Nath Florence and
Yeah.
how he went about getting so prolific. It was all off his own back, really, wasn't it? It was him creating these vlogs and all this sort of stuff and promoting himself. Is that what you were sort of alluding to? That's what is expected now of surfers?
I think different people can do different things. I think there's a problem in the surf industry where a lot of people think they have to do the same thing.
Oh, yeah?
I think people do it in different ways. Nate can get away with it because he is incredibly good at what he does.
Yep.
But he also, to start with, had, for lack of a better word, a famous name.
Yeah, for sure.
So people love John. And they're like, oh, well, we'll give,
yeah.
his brother a go. And then he
sure.
just absolutely nailed it. Went through those couple of years where he nailed it. I think those vlogs are very hit and miss.
Yep.
Putting out a vlog for the sake of putting out a vlog. Like, I know he says, weekly videos, but some weeks you might not score.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
he just puts out some other session that's, not necessarily as good. Or, watching his vlog and there's like 3 minutes straight of his cat playing on the front lawn. I'm just like, good on you, mate. I'm sure there's heaps of people out there that, like and subscribe. But, he is one of the, the best. Vlogs have changed over the last 15 years. I mean, Dion did it, Wade did it, and then me and Crakey did it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of changed and appeared and disappeared, and then it came back on YouTube as like every guy that couldn't just go and make a surf film at the end of the year was like, oh, we've got to do it ourselves then.
Yeah.
Times are changing, like there's very few surfers out there that get paid enough purely to go free surf that could fund a film and just go and like not do anything else.
Yeah.
And I think, a few surfers get stuck in that where like it costs a lot of money to travel, particularly if you're only traveling with a filmer and not other surfers to pay for it as well.
Yeah.
If you got 3 or 4 surfers traveling and they've all got their own budgets, then a filmer's not actually that much more on top.
Yeah.
Because, but if you're trying to go and solo score somewhere and just take one filmer on your own bat, you're
paying for all the accommodation, all the car.
If you're taking into it properly, you're not only paying for everything yourself, but you're doubling that for them, and then you've got to pay their rate on top.
Yeah.
Some surfers might ignore that and just be like, oh, I took you somewhere good, that's enough kind of thing. Like, but it doesn't really work like that, or it shouldn't work like that.
No, because you need money to pay bills when you get home.
Like it's kind of that thing is because it's the same as all those creative jobs, like whether it's a musician or an artist, like it's something that you enjoy doing. So it's a catch-22. Do you enjoy doing it, or do you want to do it for money? And it's like, well, I enjoy doing it, and I'm just stoked I get appreciated financially for it.
Yeah.
But there's people that will always take advantage of that, saying, oh, well, you're going to have a good time. Like, like I'll just take you and then like, pay for your expenses kind of thing. And it's like that, it just depends, man. Like, there's a lot of filmers out there that got their job by being best mates with the surfer. The surfer got really good at surfing, got sponsored, and they were like, oh, best mate, you can come and film me. And then things go from there. I never had that luxury. I had to like, I knew no one. I was just this shit little grom that was like 4 foot tall and everyone else at Trig Point that didn't know how to stand up on a surfboard trying to find out how to get there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, cool.
But it's a, it's a different thing. But where were we? What are we talking about?
We were talking about the industry then, I think, mate. I mean, obviously everyone knows in the noughties the industry was just booming. There was money everywhere. Now, is there still money in the industry? Has it just changed, or has it changed and there's less?
One thing I'd say is like the industry, along with everything, has gone as digital as possible, as quick as possible. Like a kid in a candy store, because everything digital is so easily traceable and you just get free data.
Yeah.
Like the surf industries that used to pay heaps of money to have magazine adverts, you basically, I think all the magazines, used to fudge the numbers to like increase the price and be like, oh yeah, we sell this many copies. We print this many copies a month. We sell this many copies. But I've heard numerous stories of, magazines having warehouses stockpiled of magazines they bought themselves to bump their numbers up. You know what I mean? Like, and there's no way you can quantify how many eyes those adverts reached. But with Instagram or YouTube or anything digital,
Yeah.
You just get click meters. Like the data's all there. You look at the end of the day, you see how many people have watched your YouTube, what time they stopped watching it, who skipped the ads, what ads were playing. Like the data there, not that I've really looked into it much, is just so valuable to a company.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's taken away the ethos of the surf industry. The surf industry was built by a couple of surfers that wanted to make board shorts.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make wetsuits so they could surf longer. And the entire point of those companies was to make the products to go surf and then make money to go surf.
Yeah.
And then they got their team riders. And the whole idea was to go and surf with the team riders and make movies with the team riders.
Yeah.
It wasn't about making money for shareholders or like, you know, anything like that. It was literally, if we can sell enough board shorts and wetsuits to make enough money to go on a 6 surf trip somewhere, then we can film it and make a film and be stoked.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the surf industry came about. So there is still that, but it is very diluted now. And there's so many surfers out there that are trying to do this and that. And there's so many marketing this. And you got the WSL trying to push surfing and take surfing in like some strange dimension that, you know, sometimes resembles surfing. Essentially, I mean, it is surfing, but it's not what you or I would identify as core surfing. It's kind of just like, you know, just gone into a like, how many soy lattes can you drink in half an hour and be as turbo as, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really feel like it, you know.
Yeah.
It, you know, so...
What about the future of the industry? Where do you see it? Is it still looking good? Are people still going to be able to be pro surfers and pro filmmakers?
Oh, I mean, you could look at bodyboarding and see how that just plummeted because the industry got taken over by the bodyboarders that knew what bodyboarding was but didn't know how to run a business, maybe.
Okay.
Because it is a business.
Yeah.
It's all about, you know, you can't make products and make movies and stuff without selling products. It's like and I'm not an economist or a business person myself. It's just, you know, it is what it is. But I think surfing as an industry is in a really weird kind of like transition stage where you've got the old surf industry and you've got the new surf industry and everyone else trying to figure out, you know, do we stay with the old or do we go with the new? But the biggest thing I think is that the big legacy brands that have been, you know, split up and you know, diluted and owned by corporations that aren't actually within the surf industry and stuff. You've got the people that are working at the companies that are core surfers that are trying to keep it as core as possible. And then you've got the owners who are not trying to be like, well, we need to turn a profit so we can like sell the company and make money back or whatever. And their budgets are still big enough to run a surf industry. And by that, I mean make surf media and stuff that's proper and quality. And then you've got the newer brands like the Formers and the Florence brands, right?
Yep.
John and his stuff, they do everything in-house. They're not hiring, you know, they're not doing team trips or hiring crew outside of their circle, really. So it's not like, you know, they might be making some money now because they're doing good shit, but they haven't got to the point where they've got like 20 team riders around the world and they're like doing team trips and product shoots. Yeah. It's kind of John and Eric just traveling to places and, you know, those crew just jumping on. As far as I know, I could be wrong. I'm not.
Yeah.
But, you know, like Formers, the same thing, where those Formers are really rad brand. They make really cool stuff and they know what surfing is and they know what they want. You know, Ando and Dane and the other guys, they're all just like, that's the real surf industry, brands like that. But they're not quite big enough to really pump money into everything. Like, you know, they're getting there. They're doing really good. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah. I think they're doing really good from what I've spoken to Craig about and stuff.
Someone rocked up to my kid's 6th birthday yesterday and they had a Former shirt on. So there you go. And we're on the absolute opposite side of the world to them, aren't we? So
well, yeah. I mean, but it's that thing where those brands are coming up and they're establishing themselves and they're becoming bigger and bigger, but they're not big enough to be like, you know, really solid and just like, yeah, we got 4 filmers and we got 20 team writers, you know. They're trying to build slowly and properly, you know.
Yeah.
And you've got the big legacy brands that have got the big teams and they've still got budgets to go and do things. But, you know, maybe 5 years ago, like 5 years ago, I would say, you know, quite a few free surfers were on the 200-300 plus grand a year just to go free surfing and put out an edit at the end of the year or whatever.
Yeah.
I think now you'd be lucky if they'd be getting 6 figures.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of really top free surfers and comp surfers, but, you know, that are signing contracts now for just living wages.
Yeah.
Where, you know, 10 years ago, they would have been like buying a house, cruising, you know. And that's still a shitload better than where bodyboarding's at.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's still an industry. It's still incredible. But, like, for the amount of surfers out there that are buying products and the amount of companies out there that are making money, it does seem like the marketing budgets have been disintegrating rapidly. And they're, you know, the whole, like, vlogging stuff and the whole Instagram-y stuff and, like, it does feel super ungenuine as a surfer. Like, you know, it feels weird. I mean, not that I'm not a huge magazine person these days, but the fact that Groms aren't growing up with a wall of posters. Yeah. You know, I remember when I was a Grom and I had
posters were the fucking best, weren't they?
Every single millimeter.
I still got them in my shed.
Yeah, I made a plan of it. I had every single millimeter of my visible room. I had my walls, my windows, my roof, everything.
Did ya?
I would cut out like photos out of Surfmax, not just the posters. I don't have some magazines anymore because I cut the whole thing up into pieces and stuck it around my room.
Sick.
You know, I still got boxes of Trax mags or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, you know, there was that kind of that period you go through where you get obsessed with something on a teenage level.
Yeah.
And I just feel bad for grommets these days. They get obsessed with something. The only way they can access it is just looking at a phone.
Yeah.
And they probably won't even be able to look at that soon anyway because they'll get cancelled off media.
Yeah.
Poor 14-year-old grommet that just wants to go and look at surf photos on Instagram won't have a choice.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe the band will bring back surf mags. Who knows? That'd be cool. That'd be
Who knows?
An added bonus of it.
But
all,
I mean, all I can do is stay true to my word and do what I do and hope that it gets appreciated.
Yeah.
For years to come.
Oh well, definitely will. It's been logged, and once it's there, it's there forever, isn't it? These days. So. Well,
I mean, yeah, I've got
cool.
I am, you know, I archive my work and I look after it, and you know, I have plans to release films with my footage and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that was one of my questions, actually, mate. I know you've done lots of edits and lots of contributions, but is there ever a Tom Jennings feature film in the making?
Yeah,
there is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So. Because I kind of got to this thing, I years ago I started making reels. Sometimes I would make a reel at the end of a trip if it was a really good trip, and I've done a heap of them and just keep them to myself.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about posting stuff on my YouTube channel every now and again, but I just never really get around to it.
Yeah.
I think I posted my Cyclops edit from last year, and that's so far the only clip.
That was like
that's
mostly Empty Waves with with Metallica music or something. Was
it was Tool.
Oh, Tool, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, and a few whales and a few other animals and stuff.
Cool.
And But the main thing that I started working on, I guess the last reel that I put out was 2019-20. I called it 1920, and that was like 2 years condensed into 10 minutes. And I remember so much shit. It was sick just getting binned on the floor for it.
Really? Yep.
I mean, this is well, not all, but mainly footage that has been bought and paid for by other surfers or brands.
Yep.
And my take on it is once it's been used for its purpose, then
it's worthless to them.
It returns back to me as being it's my intellectual property.
Yep.
You know, someone might agree or disagree, but everything goes online these days. You know,
I don't think they'd ever come at you and go, man, you know, like.
Well,
surely who would?
Surely, but anyway. You know, once it's achieved its purpose that it was paid for, you know, it was in its surf edit or it's in the the product campaign.
Yeah.
It's done its dash.
It's not like you're busting it out
Yeah.
a month later. It's
Exactly.
8 years later.
Yeah, or whatever. So anyway, in 20, I think it was from 21, 22, and 23, I've actually made a film from those 3 years put together called Texture, and it's an hour long, and it's just like, just non-stop. I mean, a lot of slow-mo. If you don't like slow-mo, I mean, I'm not for you.
Yeah.
Go watch Nate Florence. That's sick. But, it's not for everyone, but it's an hour-long film, and I'm still trying to figure out, I haven't quite finished it because I had to shoot some stuff and like work it around, but I'm not sure how that's going to get released, whether I'll just pop that on YouTube. But the stuff that I've shot this year, I am definitely planning to source music so I can do a cinema release.
Yep.
And because, everything I've shot since 2016 has been cinema grade footage.
Yeah.
At least that's the goal.
Yeah.
Whether it's 16 mil or it's on the Reds or whatever, it's all been, 4K, all that stuff. Oh, hey, doggy.
Dogs come in for a bit of
Telling us
action.
we should wrap it up once it's food.
Yeah.
Hello.
So that Texture movie, is it just going to be like a visual feast, or will there be any storyline or documentation?
It's all purely just music.
Yep.
Sound effects.
So there won't be any like backstory to going, this was, we travelled here or something like that. Yep.
No, that's what I mean. That returning to Chippo's edit, like that's the kind of thing that I said, no, I don't do that.
Yeah, okay.
So when Chippo came to me with that shit, I was like, I don't know, I'll give it a crack, but I haven't done it for a while.
Yep.
So I made a special, effort for Chip.
Yeah, cool.
Because,
that's what he wanted.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he's your mate.
talked to me and he's a mate, and
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's all basically done with, it's all just my work,
Yeah, cool. I'll look
every
forward to that
every single shot, and it's shot by me. So like,
awesome. That's
and then
cool.
this year will be interesting what I come up with. But the Cloud Break session, the Right, Toomey's, North Point, Box,
And
whatever.
You'll filter all that into Texture, or is Texture sort of already
Sorry?
closed? Has Texture already? Have you already sort of closed the lid on what's going in a Texture, or are you still going to add to it?
Texture stopped filming last year. That was like the Cyclops stuff that I put out. That was the last stuff I shot for it.
Okay.
So that was, I just feel like some years you score some waves and then other years you score other waves, and you kind of like want to fit them all into one film. You can't score them all in 1 year kind of thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
But
people can't watch Texture at the moment though, can they?
No.
On your YouTube channel or anything? No.
I've shown a version of Texture to quite a few of my close friends and guys that I shoot with.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, like, Billabong boat trips and other Billabong trips, and then like other people that were there, or there's just a lot of, in that 3 years for Texture, I did I did 2 boat trips, a couple other Indo trips, and I went to all these other places, not to mention 3 separate winters at home. So Toomey stuff, and down here there's obviously a lot of stuff from around home. It's kind of a
Yeah, cool.
And then the film that I make from this year will be similar, but just from this year and wherever I went. So there'll be the Fiji and there'll be Indo and a few other things.
Yeah, cool.
I went to Shippies as well this year. And it was pretty sick. Like a real like underground swell. If it was 2 foot bigger, it would have been pretty sick.
Okay.
But it was still sick.
Yeah.
But I got to go to Shippies and swim for 4.5 hours with no feeling in my fingers or extreme
Oh, really?
extreme pain and inability to use them. I couldn't
Is that
even
the
press my
coldest water
buttons.
you've swum in?
Well, without gloves.
Okay.
Yeah, it was dumb. I had my gloves in the boat and I didn't put them on. And then
really?
I was like, I kept my hands underwater the whole time and they stopped working.
Oh, right.
Couldn't pinch the dials on the side of my camera.
Oh, hectic.
Yeah.
Have you swum colder with gloves?
I've swum in New Zealand. I
Oh,
guess.
yeah?
But
Yeah.
I don't like gloves because it's like you don't
lose
have the
dexterity.
same dexterity. But
Yeah.
then when you can't use your hands anyway because it's so cold, it's pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Oh,
But yeah.
that sounds cool. Look forward to checking that out one day, definitely. Mate, what about shark encounters? I mean, I'm no doubt you've swum down in South Oz a fair bit. I mean, swum around here and, out at the right, there's pretty deep water on the south coast. And
Yeah.
have you ever been spooked by any or whilst shooting?
I've had a couple of. You get spooked by the thought of it,
Yeah.
but at the ride or something, there's a lot of skis around. I'm not worried.
Yep.
I mean, you can't let it get to you.
Yeah.
I know swimming in South Oz, like swimming in on the inside of a pretty big deep water wave.
Yeah.
After sunset, definitely going, please just don't do this to me. The surf's been ridiculously good, but, at the end of the day, if it's my time, it's my time. Jesus Christ, I've put enough hours in to the lotto's going to come up sometime soon. And I've had a couple of shark encounters, like surfing up north or something where I've been, one come up to me while I've been surfing under my board and I've kind of like gone to flick off the back of the wave and it's come up underneath my board and I'm like, holy shit.
Really?
But, that's just, it's part of surfing in the raw ocean.
Up north, it doesn't feel as creepy. It's still not, nothing safe, but.
I've never seen a great white, which is, bull sharks would, sharks would scare the shit out of me, but the only ones I've ever actually come into contact with physically are bronzies.
Yep.
And they're all in that kind of 6 to 8 foot range.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly bigger than a dolphin.
Yeah.
And there's a clip in Chippo's edit.
The new edit?
Yeah, if we can't, we're on the inside at Box and they've both been at Box. And I wonder if it's the resident bronzy or there's just like they move in and out, but there's, a bronzy and we're just on the inside of the reef, like in knee deep water or like waist deep water. And it was just cruising.
Yeah, right.
And, I got my camera in my hand and I'm like not scared at all. Just like, this is cool. Like the shots, there's a beautiful shot of it. And then like a year or two earlier out at Box on a day in February, it was weird. But there was just the bronzy cruising out there and we're all just chilling out there. I'm like, yeah, boys, this is just bronzy just hanging and we're just watching, looking around and it popped up here and then it left and it popped up again. And I got a little footage. I think that shot's in texture.
Oh, yeah, cool.
But it's compared to the one I got this year, it's pretty crappy. But, swimming in the water and there's a shark there and you're like, it could definitely do something to me. But they don't because they're not there for us and we're not there for them. Every now and again, there's a miscommunication and unfortunately those miscommunications involve teeth.
Yeah.
And, I'm not speaking for every shark. There's definitely some psychos out there and I wouldn't want to be near them. And for everyone that has been hit by a shark, God damn, that's just terrible luck.
Yeah.
But, I try to justify them the way they think and it can be hard sometimes, but Jesus, it's if you see one and it's not an aggressive, I can't see clearly underwater. It's only my camera that can see clearly. So I'm just seeing this blurry shape, but it's like, so you don't really understand how big it is or whatever. But I haven't had a negative shark encounter personally.
Oh, well, let's touch wood and hope that keeps going for you.
Yeah.
Sick. What about local aggressions? We sort of touched on it earlier, but what's sort of the gnarliest local? Have you ever had anyone like try to smack your camera down or slash your tyres or anything like that? For some reason, I'm thinking South Oz here, but
no,
anyway.
I'm pretty good with crew in South Oz, and I've done a few trips down there, and I've got some good friends down there. But definitely I try and be really diplomatic, and I know that in small towns they have a certain view on things that shouldn't be disrespected. They come from their world, and if you're going into their place, then it's their rules.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a certain amount of nuance. But I've definitely snapped at a bunch of people that have, interfered with my work.
Yep.
And I've had a few people blow up at me, but it's just aggro people, really.
Yep.
Or like people that couldn't go surfing or didn't want, there's a lot of selfishness there, and I know that because I try and understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I always try and go like, all right, what's this person's perspective? Why are they this way or that way? And it's like, but as diplomatic as possible. But I've definitely had some run-ins. Nothing physical, I don't think. In Hawaii, last time I went to Hawaii, there was some really weird, always the white locals getting all snappy.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. It's like but
what are they? Why would they get snappy in Hawaii over a wave that's not commonly filmed, or was it at a well-known break?
It's the pipeline, bro.
Oh, really?
Who knows?
Yeah, right.
Oh, look, you get someone on their bad day who knows they haven't had their morning billy and they're just fucking done. Maybe they had too many the night before. You just never know if someone's having a bong snap or they're just an aggro person or they're just feeling shit because they had to work when the waves were good or...
Yeah. So surfers having a crack at you there or other filmers having a crack for getting in their way?
Nah, no filmers.
Oh, okay.
I guess I've earned a certain level of respect from people, and like if there is an issue, I mean, I've snapped at filmers or photographers if they've, in my own waters. I wouldn't say anything to anyone in Hawaii or somewhere else, but definitely had a few run-ins with a few people.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just filmers in general get a pretty bad rap because they are, I guess, people that, they're the ones creating the images that potentially expose a wave, which is what locals don't want. They don't want their waves getting out there so they can surf all to themselves. And that's cool. That's to be respected because they live in a part of the world that doesn't have much else going,
Yeah.
You're not living in like bumfuck middle of nowhere in South Oz because it's got a good social life or because there's heaps of hot chicks or, it's convenient for work.
Yeah.
You're just not,
Nah.
Especially not in your 20s or your 30s or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a reason those people live there.
Yeah.
And when, they're used to surfing their waves every day with barely anyone out or whatever, and then all of a sudden there's 10 people that rock up and they attribute that to media coverage and promotion from, the media's also got to be so much smarter about that shit. Like it's been so frustrating where I've made films or produced the footage from sensitive places, and then like they've gone and like taken the frame grab of the only clip that has any sort of backdrop and they've used that as the cover art. So it's like highlighted the, I was like, are you kidding me? Like you could have just let that clip play and just like, left it, but you decided to highlight that one. Like,
yeah.
And it's like a really frustrating thing.
Oh, I bet. And then you probably caught the flack for it too.
I definitely have copped flack for stuff. And it's like, hang on, this is not me. So like if I'm ever going somewhere that's sensitive, it's like, I got to control the footage and that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because other people are paying me for the footage, but I got to be like, nah, you guys
can't
put this footage on social media. You can use it in your edit, but don't put it on social media. Like it's annoying having to have those specifications because, that's, you put an edit out and people are like, oh, where's that wave? It's like, it doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah.
You're not going there, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. They're just some anonymous person in an editing suite in Sydney and something, and then, you're the one just got the name and you're the one that was there doing it, and you're the one that they're going to remember. So, yeah, right. Mates, what about... Let's talk about some of your wipeouts. You mentioned earlier, like breaking your back at rabbits and splitting your head at mufflers. Were they both in the course of filming?
No, they were both on the book.
Were they?
Being a uncoordinated kook.
Yeah. So, what's your worst wipeout on a book then? Breaking your back would be pretty hard to beat. Not that you'd want to, but...
Oh, I've also broke my ribs out at 3-foot Toomies.
Did you?
Yeah, a little acid drop and then a lip landed on my back and just went...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just a fragile unit. For someone that can like put his fins on and swim in some heavy shit for hours and hours, I'm a really brittle person.
Yeah.
People don't realize how brittle I am.
Crazy. So what was the worst wipeout of those ones? Pretty hard to differentiate. I mean, how bad was the back?
Well, that's the thing. Like the back break, I didn't know I'd broken it for a year.
Oh, right.
Like I was in a rare rush of blood to the head, decided to go like a 4-foot drainer at rabbits, and I was just in the tube. It was just like, a nugget, and bounced over the foam ball and thought I was coming through, and I kind of nosedived as I came over it, and just me being uncoordinated and large and lanky, just my board nosedived, stopped, and my fins went over the top of my head.
Oh, scorpion.
And there was just this, full scorpion inside the tube, and there was this crunching, cracking pop, like a squish.
Oh.
And my diaphragm went all tingly, and I just felt this pain of sorts. It wasn't like anything like too insane. It was more like, oh my God, I just like crunched my back, and I like
Yep.
got into the beach, and I was like, oh my God, that's sore. And I was like, ouch. Got to the car park, took my weddy off, drove home. Mum and Dad were down at the time, and I was like, oh, I really hurt my back. Like, it sucks. And like real sore, just kind of real jarred and like torn muscles kind of thing. And like, yeah, I'd clearly torn muscles.
Yeah.
Like pulled some muscles, but you know, I didn't realize at the time I'd like absolutely popped a bunch of ligaments.
Yeah.
Or
right.
done something, you know, I never had any surgery. It took a year to get a scan when I was finally like in Hawaii, and a year later, and my bones started hurting
Really?
because it was just this, I don't even know really, but I eventually got a scan that showed a small fracture that had like compression fracture,
Oh.
you know, where, you know, where the ribs stop kind of thing, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and, but you know, I went and took weeks and weeks before I went to get any help because, you know, muscles tend to recover
sort
fairly
them as-
quickly from
yeah.
being torn or pulled or whatever, but
Yep.
the amount of pain that would twinge up in my back whenever I'd try and like roll over in bed or do anything, and I couldn't go anywhere near surfing. I was getting my back taped up, and it was just not really going anywhere. And then like the next winter I was trying to swim, and like I'd kick through the back and feel like a shoot of pain on the other side of my body as everything would just kind of like everything. I don't think, you know, like my muscles were, you know, pulled, and I think my ligaments were strained. I don't think anything actually snapped or anything, but
Yep.
still to this day, like I can push a pressure point in my back and it just goes bang,
Yeah. Okay.
you know, so I have to watch that, but it's, you know, it's not like I, you know, shattered my vertebrae and was close to spinal injuries and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That it was like, you know, more
Still
of like a
still
bone
significant.
bruising with a little bit of a fracture, but it's still like a permanent injury that I have to live with every day.
Yeah. So would you say that's your worst wipeout, or have you had something worse?
I've had some insane wipeouts that have resulted in not much,
Yeah.
but like, you know, I'm pretty calculated and knowledgeable with my filming, but
Yep.
I'm still very average at surfing. So I got the shit kicked out of me a number of times at Rabbits this
Yep.
spring
Oh, did you?
when I got back on the boog and was trying to scoop some bigger ones, just
Yeah.
getting demoed.
Cool.
But
Because the next question was going to be worst wipeout whilst filming, but haven't had anything too bad there. Haven't been sucked over and been driven into the reef with
Oh,
your
yeah.
housing or anything.
a lot when I was younger, like, you know, up north, definitely getting absolutely demoed a few times. I mean, I've tried to get under the rail at mufflers and kind of been sucked over the falls with my housing in the hand and punched the reef, or like,
yeah.
you know, kneeing the reef here or getting planted firmly on the bottom. There's a place, one of the islands in the Pacific, where I got absolutely demoed and just, you know, 6 bombs on the head and put on the reef and just like within an inch of my mortality, or, you know, just certain things here and there. Like, I definitely learnt how to respect the box pretty early once I got smoked a few times and
Oh, yeah.
wrapped around a few pinnacles and
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm very calculated. I mean, getting off the rocks and coming in at Monty's is terrifying, but I
yeah.
haven't really had too much, you know.
Yep.
I've been pretty lucky, but I think that's just for
Yeah,
some
those-
reason I
it's like
just
those
have
big 3 fingers up there, isn't there? That just
Oh.
man, I remember doing it. I was pretty green. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'd swum a few times up there, and
Yep.
man, it's amazing water shots to be had out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
The lighting and stuff, but yeah, getting in and out, it's pretty gnarly.
Honestly, I'm a professional water cameraman, so when I put my fins on, I put my booties on,
Yeah,
I feel like I know what I'm doing.
yeah,
But put a board in my hands, like, you know, I've crushed my wrist at jumping off the rocks at Jake's, cut my feet up jumping off the rocks at Jake's. But the first time I ever swam out there on that first ever trip I went up north, you know, Rick went and you know, said, okay, here's the housing, jump out and go for a swim kind of thing.
yeah.
And just dived off things straight into a barnacle and cut my chest up.
Did you?
Yeah, it just being an absolute kook back in the days, you know.
Yeah.
But you learn to figure out. Oh, these mozzies need to get punched in the face, eh?
Oh,
But yeah, learn the ropes, and then once you've learnt the ropes, you kind of know what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
But yeah, a couple of wash throughs at North Point to get under, and I've managed to do that a few times.
oh yeah.
Can
Yeah.
get pretty punished out there, but
It's a hard swim out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
You said it earlier. I swum it a couple of times back in the day, and when it's big, it keeps sucking you towards the takeoff spot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Into the impact zone.
But there's a lot of people that start swimming or try and swim and then go like, it's more like trying to prove a point or swimming for the sake of swimming. And I was kind of like, nah, look, some places are good for swimming, some people aren't. I mean, some places aren't good for a swim.
Yep.
I'm not trying to prove anything. Like, you know.
Yep.
I want to get the most productive footage on the day, and sometimes it's shooting land, sometimes it's in the water, depending on the job and whether there's a second filmer to back me up or.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there any places that you really want to swim and get footage at as a challenge to yourself, or just for pure enjoyment that you haven't?
I want to go back to Tahiti and go back to Chopes, and I'd love to swim when it's proper bombing.
Yep. So you've swum there before on
I have
8 foot days or something?
Yeah.
Yep.
8-10 foot day, but I'd love to swim a toe swell and just see where it takes me, because it'd be pretty similar to the right.
Yeah.
And a lot of safety out there. I mean, I would not want to get sucked over.
No.
But I feel like I can handle myself in those situations for sure.
Yeah, cool.
But like, got to be careful. Like one wrong move and I'd be well and truly out of my league. I don't do training. I'm not like, big wave daving it or anything. I'm not like doing breath hold training or, because just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. Like I'm sure it'd be smart to do, but I just I don't, I'd love to score. The one thing I'd really want to score is place somewhere in Europe. I'd love to score somewhere that's like, score some pumping waves in the morning, go up to the mountains and get some snow in the Arvo, or who knows, you get snow on the beach or something. That's kind of where I want to go.
Yeah, cool.
Oh,
that sounds cool.
I don't know. Like I just want to get those experiences that are unique and try and figure out how to capture them and do them justice on footage.
Yeah, cool. Oh, that sounds good. Mate, what's, let's see, I'm going through my list here. Mate, have you ever dropped any cameras or housings or lost equipment or just like fully blown it or like lost footage or something just by accidentally pressing delete or something?
Sure.
What's the worst?
There's
what's the worst case one of them?
The worst thing on that thing is when Sony brought out a camera called the FS700. Yeah. And I got one in 2013, I think it was. Yeah. And it was the first kind of financially approachable digital camera that shot HD at 240 frames, which was like it's the benchmark of slow motion. It's just like the sweet spot. Yep. So it was HD at 240 frames, but it worked on an 8-second buffer. So you could only record 8 seconds at a time, and it took like 30 seconds for that to record to the card. Oh, yeah. And some of the clips that I missed because I was buffering on the previous wave or something like that, Jesus, that got me. Every now and again, I always tried to warn the surfers, hey, if one of you goes the first wave of the set, can you just not go the second wave? And the amount of times that just didn't work. Or like I would film the first wave of the set and then be buffering, and the second wave of the set would be better. Yeah, right. And I couldn't shoot it. Yeah. So that would be like in terms of like missing clips.
Oh, that's pretty gnarly.
Sometimes, my camera, cameras randomly turn off. They do random things every now and again. And like we're so used to technology being flawless these days. But when something goes wrong, like the surfer's like, you fucking serious? I'm like, what do you mean, mate? We're dealing with equipment that's like nanotechnology, little bits of silicon chips and random light sensors converting what you see. Yeah. Back in the day of film, it was just like you got what you got. If your camera ate the film roll or like, something happened or there was a this or that, you just was like, all right, well, that's whatever. It's done. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the reason why surf media's got so much more precise these days, is because the technology allows it. But every now and again, it will still fucking break. Yeah, it'll still not happen. A lens will just glitch, or your camera will just not turn on. My my new camera that I've had since 22, or was it? A couple of times the power cable that runs from my battery to my camera has just broken. And I'm not an electrician, but you need some really intricate soldering abilities to get that back together. And if you get it wrong, the thing will short circuit and do this and that. And I had a couple of issues. I went round to my mate Silsy's house. Yeah. Because he was just like, bro, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
what are you fucking doing? Like, and it's like, that shit wigged me out a lot.
Yep.
Being on a trip and just having a vital cable snap. Like,
Oh.
I was in Reunion Island shooting for Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And we had 6 guys in a 5-seater and my camera bag in the back. And one of the boys just sat on it and snapped my screen power
no.
cable. So my screen just fucked out on the
heavy.
second day or the night of the first day. And we're like, you know, there's workarounds. You have to work around. When I go on a boat trip or whatever, I take kits with me so I can, you know, fix leaks on housings or whatever, you know.
Yep.
I remember once in Mozambique in the middle of fucking nowhere and my housing was sitting on the back of the ski trailer and one of the boys was sitting at the front and they got up and it changed the balance of the trailer and it bent in half and the housing fell and like cracked the side of the port and like blew off a chunk and then it was like if it was a millimeter more it would have created too much of a leak.
Yep.
But the air pressure inside the housing or something, like I could see bubbles, but none of the water was actually coming into the housing.
Really?
It was this weird thing.
Oh, that's
like,
weird.
And, you know, there's all sorts of things, like little tiny things, and it's nightmares made of it. Like cameras hitting the reef or wing nuts not being done up or cables snapping or... But there's contingency plans, and I'm always pretty careful. And, like, now I always do my housing up whenever possible at home. The day before a swell, and then like I don't usually take my camera out of the housing until like the wind's onshore or it's done. Like, you know, I'll regularly leave my camera in for a week or two.
You're not worried about condensation or anything like that?
I put a couple of silicone pads in there now because my camera runs real hot. So if there is any moisture, it'll condense real quick.
Yep.
So I usually set my camera up, run it for 10, 20 minutes, let it condense, and then purge it and chuck a couple of tabs in there.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
It's a bit mathematical now, but it works.
Oh, you're onto it.
90% of the time, every time.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Mate, what's your favourite movie of all time? Obviously, you've been pretty inspired by surf movies and stuff over...
Lord of the Rings trilogy.
What was that? Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Sick, I love it.
Oh, that thing. Those... Yeah. Anyway.
I was going surf movies, but mate, love Lord of the Rings is all time.
Surf movies.
It's probably one of my favourite too.
Montage for me, like obviously TB living here. You know, there's the Rabbits North Point section.
Yep.
The way that, you know, it was the thing is like the Chip film, that was my inspiration. Not that I rewatched it, but you know, there's a little part at the start of that section where TB's talking about his favourite wave and how he just drives down. It's out the front of his house, and it's that same kind of vibe that's in Chippo's edit with the voiceovers.
Oh yeah, cool.
You know, it's not like a sit down interview, but it's like, you know, and you know that section, the way it goes, you know, from fun and it's rabbits and it's approachable, it's right there. Like Rabbits and North Point are two of my favourite waves. Like they're just they're just some of the waves that control my life, really.
Yeah.
And then the final section, which is like the slow-mo art reel from Rick Jacko or whatever, and it's just like, you know, TB's dad playing the music.
Yeah.
But it's that artistic slow-mo, like, you know, Nat Geo style of like cinematic, beautiful surfing that inspired me the most. And then the Tension series got me so deeply into bodyboarding.
And knocking over big piles of baked beans at your local supermarket.
Oh, no, I never got into that. Like, some of that stuff is funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Some of it's
I just remember the bottom turn was a good one.
Oh, that was good.
With a guy.
Hardy.
Who was that?
It was Ryan doing that.
Was that Ryan Hardy doing that?
Yeah.
He's like driving down the
skits.
road and got his pants down using his bum to steer the wheel.
Yeah,
it's like
so
bottom
good.
turn.
Some of that stuff is classic. Some of it hasn't aged very well.
Yeah, probably.
You know? But, you know, that's life.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, those films and a few others, like there's a couple of Rip Curl films, like John Frank stuff.
Yep.
You know, Chris Bryan's work in a couple of the Quickie films and like Ryan Hardy's Hard Life. And like, I feel like I've benefited greatly from being obsessed with both surfing and bodyboarding. I've always felt strangely like sorry for surfers that can't appreciate bodyboarding and bodyboarders that can't appreciate surfing.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you know, maybe you were one of them growing up where you thought boogie boarders were kind of like trashing the lineup, you know, probably.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I mean, I boogie boarded for a little bit when I was like a young teen, and then I went on to a stand-up, and mate, that was early 90s, and it was definitely not cool. You were like, oh, bodyboarding's a kid's sport, you know?
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
definitely wasn't
I mean, that's
cool.
the Cal Barry ethos.
Yeah.
You know, I've the amount of slurs that I heard up there, and I was I was quite happy to say I love bodyboarding, and they were like, oh, you're this and you're that. I'm not going to say what they said because it's not cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, I understand and respect where they come from because it's their place. They can, you know.
But, mate, it's all different now.
But
anyone who doesn't, any surfer now that doesn't respect what lidding has done for opening up and discovering waves of incredibly heavy magnitude, it's
to each
so
their
obvious.
own. Like at the end of the day, it's just a reflection of the person and their insecurities or ignorance.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've always felt so grateful that I've been able to appreciate and be obsessed with both codes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think you can learn a lot and appreciate a lot from both of them once you put aside a couple of pedants.
It seems like a lot of good water photographers were bodyboarders as well.
It's funny.
Like heaps,
a lot of surf filmers are really good surfers.
Yeah.
And a lot of water filmers are bodyboarders.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the land filmers are surfers and the water filmers are bodyboarders. Not across the board.
Not across. So obviously you got Rick Jacko, who's a guru at everything.
Yeah, he still not a fan of the boog.
Isn't he?
Nah.
Isn't he? Okay.
Oh, I mean, some leopards never change their spots. And I don't hold them. You know, it's each to their own. They can, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of, I mean, if I went up to Cal Barry, I wouldn't expect anything, you know, from those guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
Kirby has a lot of respect for bodyboarders, but, you know.
Yeah, because the waves he chased.
Because of the time he spent around the bodyboarders, you know, a lot of the guys in Cal Barry have their opinions on bodyboarders because they rarely ever see a decent bodyboarder, and then even if a decent bodyboarder came to Cal Barry, they wouldn't give him an inch.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that kind of thing where, like, if they knew what real bodyboarding was, they'd be like, no, that's pretty sick.
Yeah,
but they don't. So,
and
it's fine. It's up to them.
Good,
That's like, you know.
This day and age, man, I'm happy to watch.
Hey, you go to some parts of the world, and if you're a surfer and you paddle out, you'll get sent in by bodyboarders.
I've heard, like, Canary Islands and a few spots like that are, like, fully ruled by the lids.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I mean, the waves dictate what boards you can ride. I mean, but, you know, it's a lot like swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
It's cool. I you know.
But, yeah, just notice a lot of really good surf photographers were bodyboarders. There was heaps of them.
Yeah, filmers and photographers. I mean, I think
it's just I don't know. Maybe it's just they're more used to swimming around with flippers on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for
charging heavy stuff. I don't know.
For me, when I jump on my boog, I'm like same gear as you know. Put my booties on, put my fins on. I feel at home with my booties and fins on.
Yeah.
If I go surfing, I went surfing with Jerry the other day, and I was just like, oh God, I am such a kook. Holy shit. I mean, I guess like if I'm aware that I'm a kook, does that make me a kook?
No,
like
it's same as if
I know that I'm terrible, therefore I can't be a kook because I know that I'm.
That's right.
Shit.
You're aware. Yeah, a true kook doesn't know they're a kook.
Yeah,
that's the problem, eh? And that's why they're dangerous.
Yeah, I know I'm dangerous because you know, like, but yeah, when I'm on a bodyboard, I know I'm not great, but I know I'm not great because I don't charge.
Yeah.
If I charged, I could get better, but I don't charge because I get injured.
Yeah,
but enough. You know, give me a 2-3 footer out at mufflers with a good direction, and I'll probably amp myself up.
Yeah, you'll get spat out of the end.
I've had a couple of real nice cones out there.
Sick.
I've also split my cone out there. Yeah. And you know, it is what it is. But I'm happy to donate out there.
Yeah, cool, mates. Bit of a random one. It could be a positive or a negative experience, but what's the most alone you've ever felt in the ocean?
Probably coming in from that bomby in South Oz after sunset. Everyone's gone in and I'm just out there by myself, the sunset, and I'm just like, eep.
Oh, really? Yeah, that sounds pretty alone.
Alone?
Yeah. No, why did they all get in earlier? Because they all caught a wave and just...
Yeah, they've all caught their last wave in it. Like, you know, on a, you know, you can catch a bodyboard or a surfboard can catch a wave and catch it all the way in, but I've got a max speed of 3, maybe 4 Ks an hour if I'm pinning it, and I can't do that for more than a little bit. Like, it's just, you got 2 little fins and a big housing, and if there's a current, it just takes you wherever you take. You know, if I got stuck in a current, I'm feeling pretty alone. I don't know, like sometimes it's like really cool when you're like out there by yourself.
Well, that's what I mean. It can go either way. That
thrilling, but yeah, like you feel alone when you're getting smoked.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been really alone where I've been filming from the land by myself and there's nothing around and I'm just like, here I am by myself.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, probably just once everyone else has gone in and I'm stuck out there by myself.
Yep.
And it's just you and your fins
Yeah, good.
or whatever. Yeah.
Cool. Mate, I gave you a little heads up. I don't know if you had
Yep.
time to think about it or not, but we asked a lot of our guests to nominate someone for someone or something for the Clive Palmer Cup. Something that you think's shithouse in any form. Doesn't have to be a person. Can be anything. Can be surfing. Can be not surfing. Whatever.
Yeah. I thought about this. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Not everyone's
so
got.
much.
Not everyone wants to say a Clive, but whatever. If you got something.
I think people that come to a place and bring where they've come from with them.
Okay.
You know, I think it's really, I mean, I could go on for hours about it, but yeah, like, especially around here when you have people come here and they're just like, they just bring everything from where they've come from with them.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know, like, that's the thing. Like, there's some people that have moved down from Perth here and they want to live the quiet country lifestyle. And then there's other people from Perth that have come down and they're like, oh, we need 1,000 coffee shops and, you know, an extra supermarket and we need all this. And you're just like...
Or you
just
need a
watch
fucking
out.
seawall at Smith's Point.
Yeah.
What the fuck's that all about?
Yeah, well, we went to that
Jesus.
photo shoot thing. It was just like, you know, it's just like people... Like, what's wrong with what we have or what we have? Like, why do people consistently feel like they need to change what there is? And it's like, I think that's pretty Clive Palmer-y.
Yeah. No, that's a great
I think
Clive
on the
Palmer.
subject of Clive Palmer, like anyone that doesn't understand and respect the environment they're going into,
Yep.
you know, from a moral standpoint and just like, you know, I mean, I have a pretty well-rounded respect for the environment. Like if you don't understand the human impact that we're having and how negative that can be, like I'm not saying don't go, don't stop.
Yeah.
I'm saying just be aware of it.
Yeah.
There's so many people that just like tear around and just like they're off their heads. I mean, it's just, I don't know, just don't get too preachy about it or anything, but just pull your head in, everyone.
Yeah, good. No,
I'll
that's
pull my
fair.
head in. I don't mind, like I try, but like, you know, it's hard. Like you just see so many people just going way too unnecessarily huge. And it's like, oh, is that really necessary?
Yeah. No, good one.
What a beautiful snake. You know what? I'm a professional. You see a snake like this, don't muck with it. And one thing's for sure, don't try this at home. Far too dangerous. This snake could have enough venom to kill me and 100 other blokes out here in the West.
And then, mate, what about, conversely, a nomination for the Steve Irwin salute? Anything or anyone that you want to give a double thumbs up to?
So many people.
Yeah.
Love to give a double thumbs up to Jerry.
Yeah, Jerome Forrest.
Been through a hell of a time lately,
Yeah,
but just pulling into kegs.
Yep. Pulling
looking
into
after
kegs
his-
and
being
doing
being a great dad and just, you know, family man, good
Yep.
person, bunch of my other friends that are legends. I don't know, anyone that gives me a good experience in the surf trip market.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool. No, that's
Jeez, anyone
worth
that
it.
supports me
Yep.
and has a vision that takes surfing on a personal level or as an industry in the right direction.
Yep.
I mean, everyone has a different opinion on what the right direction is, but I think you and me probably have a pretty similar view on what the right direction is.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's people that are doing the right thing for the right reasons.
Yep. All right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
no,
pretty
good.
vague, but-
No, it's pretty good. I reckon it's a good answer.
I don't know. Hopefully my voice hasn't sound like an overpitched chainsaw for the last 2 hours.
That's all right, man. You listening to yourself's always pretty painful, but
I
other
was
people
really,
like listening to other people, so it's all good.
I was really self-conscious when I did that best surfing you ever seen thing that like my voice was going to come out like nails down a chalkboard. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, I don't sound too terrible.
Oh, that's good because most people don't like the sound of their own voice.
Oh, I
so-
don't like it, but it wasn't
but
too
it's-
terrible.
Wasn't too painful. Yeah, cool.
Your voice sounds good.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, I think it sounds terrible when I listen to it, but anyway, that's why you listen to other people, isn't it? 'Cause
Exactly.
It's better. Yeah, but Mate, all right. Well, I reckon we're nearly getting to where we should wrap it up. But I will finish with that one. But I just, mate, I do like the disaster stories. I find them can be entertaining. What's the worst wipeout you've filmed of someone? Like you must have seen some crackers go down.
I don't know if I filmed it, but I remember being at filming a zone in South Oz, which on a technical level you're not really allowed to film these days, but somehow people manage to do it. I don't know. I think, if it's done properly. But I remember it was a day and I'd filmed some water. I'd filmed off the boat and then I got taken into the land on the ski to shoot land angle.
Yeah.
Maybe this is where I was most alone.
Ooh,
I was
cool.
all by myself in there filming on this beach. And you couldn't access the beach by land because it was surrounded by cliffs. So you could only get in there by the ski.
Yeah, right.
And there was, and so I got in there and I was filming, got some clips and stuff, and then one of the surfers just started floating in.
Really?
And I was so scared I was going to miss the clips. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? But I went and got the guy, I pulled him out of the water.
Was he wasn't like unconscious floating?
Nah, but he'd copped his board to the eye.
Ooh.
And completely disintegrated his eyeball.
Shit.
The thing was like hanging out, leaking down his cheek, and he was so messed up.
Yep.
And
you going to name names or better left?
I can't remember his name. I can remember his mate that he was with.
Oh, right. So it was a random dude just in the lineup.
It was just one of the South Oz Scorelord.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And I don't know where he is right now. Wonder if he's listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Or someone that was there that day because they, but I was the only person on the beach and I grabbed him and pulled him up and then just feeling so helpless trying to get everyone's focusing on the surf. There's a boat, there's a ski, there's 20 guys in the water.
Wow, no one's seen him go through.
There's world champions in the water. Everyone's focused on Parko or, Mick or whatever and Crakey and Dino and all the locals and it's like a bit of a session.
Okay.
And I'm just there yelling and trying to climb up this cliff to gather attention. It took me like 20 minutes.
Shit.
And the whole time I was worried that I was going to get yelled at for missing the clip, And like this guy was like in such a bad way because he's in, his eye just was like cracked egg.
Shit.
And he lost the eye, obviously. There was nothing left. It was just like, the black of your eye. It was like a jelly like smushed on his cheek.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah. And I eventually got them to like notice me and I was like, waving, like pointing at this like body on the beach kind of thing, and they got the skin, and I was like, man, like they got him, and he was like, is it bad? I'm like,
because you always want to say you'll be right.
They got him. Luckily, because of us shooting and stuff, they brought a ski and a boat. Otherwise, it would have just been a really long walk from the car park kind of thing. But they got him on the ski, then got him on the boat, and then he was just like vomiting, going into shock, and they got him back to the beach and still had a long drive back. But that was one of those places where I've been like, that was hectic.
Fuck, that sounds nice.
There was also another time at the right where it was a really beautiful session. It was one of those times I swum and it was like, mid-size, beautiful blue. But then, it was like the clouds came over, the wind went northwest. It was like, session's done, but there was a couple of guys that, Groms didn't have the proper stuff and like, just like, oh, we can get a couple of waves now because heaps of crew wrapped it up. And this Grom just went this, like fairly insignificantly. So I looked like 8 foot. South Peak, and those waves out there can turn from being like a sucky 8 foot into like a backless 12 footer.
Yeah, right.
And I just remember it being at the end of the session, we're all like, yeah, cool, we're going to wrap this up. All the boys getting on the ski. I filmed his wave from the water and he didn't pop up. And Scotty Bauer I was on his ski and he was like, oh, hey, he's not get on the ski quick. Like, this isn't good kind of thing. We got to get out of the way. You got to get out of the way because skis are rushing in. I was like, in the way kind of thing. I got on the ski. The time it took, like, we were, like, I was in the water, filmed the wave, got on the back of the ski, which is hard with the housing and stuff. Yeah. And then we went in to look, and he hadn't popped up still. That amount of time.
Yeah, yeah.
It goes from filming the wave to getting on the ski, and he still hadn't popped up.
Yeah.
And eventually he popped up and it was like, I think Shannon was out there. Maybe he wasn't, but
Oh, yeah.
I know he was. Shannon Moore was out there,
Yeah.
and it was Silsey and Zach like launched himself off his ski, like ghosted the ski pretty much
Oh,
to like
really?
get him out of the water and turn him up, and like then they like, you know, beat the shit out of him on the back of the ski and brought him like back and stuff. But you know,
Wow.
it was like we were all like in tears, like oh, like holy shit, we just. You know,
Yeah.
and it was, you know, at that point, like, it was like anyone that goes out there without a pull vest is like, nah, you know, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, you know,
Don't do it.
yeah, you know, everyone's like, oh, I could probably paddle one, or like, you know, I could be out there without a vest or whatever. It's like, no, mate, no, don't, just no.
Just don't do it.
You know,
Yeah.
like this feels weird swimming out there without a vest or anything on, but, you
Yeah.
know, we have to be out. You know, the last time I swam under there, like, you know, some of the footage looks like I've got, your waves are coming straight onto me. I just know. You can get so close and
Yeah.
be totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
'Cause
it's
just such
it's
deep
like,
water around,
you
isn't
know,
it?
the way I look at it is it's like a rocket leaving the atmosphere. It's got to be done at the right angle to punch through.
Yeah.
If you're not in the right angle, gravity will just snap you.
Yeah. Right.
So, you know, I'm just used to it now. But, you know, swimming through a wave, on the right angle, you kind of get shotgunned out the back rather than sucked over.
Yeah.
So, you know, so you can be so close and be fine.
Sick.
But, you know, it's...
Yeah. Cool. There's a couple
Yeah.
of pretty hell stories.
Yeah.
Mate, what's the most miraculous piece of surfing you've seen? Just even a split moment or a entire wave or
Chunny's bomb at Toomey's he got in 2018, I think.
Oh yeah.
It's weird because it was a lower tide, and usually lower tides will gurgle and not hold, and this one somehow just like gave him like a tiny chip, and it was
Yeah.
like 10 foot, and it just held and went so square, and he like the craziest airdrop and pulled it, and I was just like, Jesus
Oh, I
Christ.
think I've seen that land
You know,
angle of that wave.
That one.
Did you film that from the water? Did you?
No, that was land.
Oh, so you filmed it from the
I
land?
shot a lot of the best stuff from land because, you know, if I'm just going up solo filming, like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
only really shooting water if there's a designated land angle because
Yeah.
it's just the wave's so long and you miss so much.
You miss a lot, yeah.
And
yeah.
like, it's still a struggle out there. I know what's possible to get out there
Yeah.
and I still haven't got the clip after all
Yeah.
these years.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like you just...
Oh, that's good that you've still got that goal to work towards out there.
Well, every year there's always something I can do better.
Yeah.
But, you know, miraculous, I don't know, like...
That's
you
pretty
know,
miraculous. That's
seen
yeah.
some pretty incredible surfing.
Yeah.
That was like one of those top 5 kind of
Sort of
moments.
almost glitch sort of.
Kirby's done some miraculous slab surfing. There's been some airs that are miraculous, but, you know,
Yeah.
you can't really like... No, I mean, like, Kale's flip at Northies or Noah's oop at Northies. Chunny's done some huge airs. Like, you know, John shit. I don't know, like... It's just every now and again something gets done that's mental, but
Yeah.
I'm yeah. I
That's cool.
filmed
No,
a clip
that's
of
good.
Ando this year. That
Well,
was,
I like
was
that
kind
you.
of miraculous.
I mean, you answered that pretty quickly with Chunny at Toomey, so that's probably the
Yeah, that
answer.
one
What was the
stood
endo one?
So I just out at Monty's this year. They came up and
On
just
his backhand.
yeah, and he just like real deep come over the foam ball, real beautiful wave, and I was like, oh fuck, that was beautiful. Like for me, the miraculous comes from, you know, being in the right spot, the right lighting, and like the water going the right way, and getting like a really incredible tube shot.
Yep.
You know, or like an air shot, but it's usually more the tube shot, and like, you know, usually you're like, I mean, half the time I feel like I'm just calling crew into closeouts for the shot and stuff. And then sometimes it comes together where they take off on a perfect wave, super deep, they ride the wave incredible, and you're in the incredible spot. And then that's miraculous.
Yep.
You know, it happens every now and again, like a couple of those cloud break shots are miraculous.
Yeah. Cool.
You know, every now and again you get lucky, you get an under the rail shot or just a beautiful link up, and it's miraculous.
Yeah. Sick.
So,
awesome.
yeah.
No, good answer. Good answer. Favorite spot to surf, to shoot? You don't have to name it if you don't want to, but is it like in Australia or is it overseas? Favorite destination, favorite surf spot to shoot?
Well, I mean, I love when we get to score proper 10 out of 10 sessions around here.
Yep.
You know, when box is on, you know, I love that. You know,
Yeah,
any
cool.
of the... I mean, it's a bit of a shame with Toomeys and Northies that it just gets so overrun with like seething massive humanity, but it's really hard to get a clean shot, and you always like, particularly at Toomeys,
Yeah.
you know, where it's so perfect that you can get amazing shots, and then you have some old mate or some kook that's like trying to, you know, like I said earlier, like trying to catch a flapper on the inside, and you're like, dude, like get out of there. Like they paddle past you, they just completely ruin an amazing shot or something.
Yeah.
You know, but like, I don't know. I'd love to go. I'd love to score waves in Ireland.
Yeah, okay.
That's like, you know, for me, that's like the benchmark of cold water slab surfing.
Yeah, cool.
And just like perfect slabs. And I just haven't been there, so I want to check it out and give it a crack.
Awesome.
But you got to wait for the right opportunity to come your way.
Yeah. Sick, man. Awesome. All right, mate. Well, mate, thanks heaps for coming in, Tommy.
No worries. I've got a sore throat now.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, it's been entertaining.
Yeah.
It's been insightful.
Yeah.
And, mate, we definitely look forward to seeing much more of your work. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And I hope you keep enjoying it, and we can kick back after a hard day's work and watch some absolutely glorious images roll down our screens. Mate, any last words you want to chuck out there, or you pretty good?
I don't know. I guess I'm just thankful for the life that I have and the people that have allowed me to have it.
Yeah, sick.
Thanks to my partner and my parents and my good friends.
Yeah, awesome. And future plans, like just keep cruising the way you are? You don't have any drastic changes coming up?
Well, Chanel and I just got engaged and we just got our puppy. And I don't know, the weather will always keep. There's a good swell maybe tomorrow. Who knows? There
is a good swell tomorrow.
The world is unpredictable, and we're just lucky to be here. And you know, hopefully we're in the right place to experience its magic.
Awesome. Fucking very good words of wisdom, mate. Thanks heaps, Jenno. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully I'll see you soon one day.
Hopefully people like listening to us.
And if I'm ever packing a fucking 3-footer in front of you, you better record it.
Oh, I usually do. I've always got people hit me up for footage, and I'm just like, look, I go through my footage at the end of the year. You know, like...
expect to be in December.
I re-go through it, and I've always got something on, and it's like, I always film all the boys if it's pumping and all that kind of stuff, and if anyone gets anything decent, I'm holding onto it.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Cool.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. All right, we'll catch up soon, eh?
Well, yeah, absolutely. See you at the zebra board.
Yeah, sick. Thanks, mate.
All right, mate.